Sorry, just a second. I'll just set up.
Yeah, no worries.
I think we've not gone live yet.
Not yet. Sorry, just give me 1 second.
No, it's
I think it's started. Yeah.
Please start, Sindhu.
Yeah, all right. गुड इवनिंग सभी को, जिंदाबाद सभी साथी को। बहुत दिन बाद आज हम लोग फिर से ग्राउंडेड वॉइसेस का सेशन लेके आए हैं। Good evening and welcome to the first Grounded Voices session of 2023. We resume our interactions following about 100 such conversations we had last year. Grounded Voices was conceptualized during the COVID lockdown when state repression and violence against dissenting voices became a daily occurrence. And while these issues have been building up over the years, so have people's struggles to achieve justice for historically oppressed communities and people who are discriminated against and marginalized on grounds of class, caste, religion, region, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, and so on and so forth. And of late, especially over the last few years, across the country, regressive and disenfranchising state policy, which is often passed off as public interest measures, they are being opposed by movements and grassroots movements resisting authoritarian regimes and are committed to upholding the rights of the working classes, protecting the environment, and securing social justice and social security for all. National Alliance of People's Movements, while supporting all people's struggles against oppression, acknowledges the invisibilization of many voices and assertions which are not often part of the mainstream conversation and spaces that we find today, especially in mainstream media and online spaces. We want to be able to listen to these experiences and analyze the demands for justice and social transformation, which come from individuals and groups whose participation is essential to having these larger conversations realized. Grounded voices या ज़मीनी आवाज़ें जो हम लोग कहते हैं has been one such attempt in bringing together the voices which are not often heard or paid attention to. We've had people from all walks of life engage with us over the last year and a half. We've talked on different social, economic, ecological, political issues that have been ailing us all through the country. And we've had important questions asked and answered about what matters in understanding the moment that we are living through and what alternatives can be imagined for a more equitable, inclusive, and just future. In what promises to be an extremely interesting and engaging conversation with some esteemed guests today, we will hear about the need to strengthen health in India's nuclear dissent and governance through the issue of uranium contamination in the villages of YSR district in Andhra Pradesh. Moderating our panel today is Misria Shaik, who has recently obtained her PhD in Science and Technology Studies from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, New York. Besides academic journals and edited volumes, she regularly contributes to Seminar Magazine, Maktub Media, First Post, and Outlook. Misria will outline the ongoing contamination at Palle and how different regulatory organizations have responded to it. Misria, if you're ready, over to you.
Thank you so much. So one of the reasons why I wanted to specifically organize this session is that I often find health not looked at in nuclear dissent and governance. Today we have scientist Babu sir. He's from Human Rights Forum, which is known to have, worked towards many human rights issues in Andhra Pradesh. And we also we do not have today Srinath Reddy sir because of a small emergency. But we have a Pugazhyenthi sir, who's a popular epidemiologist who's been studying disease causation in Kalpakkam around the Madras Atomic Power Station. And he's been one of the, his voice has been marginalized a lot. His good work on years of studying contamination in Kalpakkam has been marginalized a lot, and he continues to face state oppression. He's one of the members of the People's Expert Committee in the ongoing anti-nuclear movement in Kodamkulam as well. And his health impact studies are very credible. We would love to hear what Pugazhyenthi sir thinks about. At the end of the session, he would give his own inferences on what is happening in Kottala and Kottala and MC Palle, which are villages in Vaisar district, Andhra Pradesh. So we have to give these accounts. We have Mohan Babu, who's a resident at Kottala, Andhra Pradesh. Thank you so much for joining. And they've traveled all the way from the village to nearby town Pulivandala to give us these accounts, give us these grounded voices from these places. And Ramanjeyenellu farmer is actually a local scientist in the area. He's been trying to make so many important experiments of how to do agriculture, safe agriculture in the area, even after contamination. So his work is very important, and hopefully one day I'll be able to get fundings for his work. So those are the speakers today on the panel. I will also give a small, when they are asked want to speak, a small introduction would be given in Telugu for them. And thank you so much, Ashlata ma'am, for providing the translation for today, and for NAPM for organizing this. So let us quickly go into what is happening in Tummanapalli. I like to use not just nuclear issues, but I would like to use nuclear environmental health issues, because the nature of governance in Tummanapalli involves not just nuclear authorities, but also the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change as the Pollution Control Board. The State Pollution Control Board also gets involved. The district magistrate, the district health officials also get involved. The district magistrates get involved. So it's a wider problem, really. So that's why I use the nuclear environmental health as the way to speak about the issue there. As you see, in Tummanapalli, uranium mine and mill was established in 2012, and the land acquisition all started late 90s into early 2000. So that being said, it's actually being overlooked and operated by the Uranium Corporation of India Limited, or UCIL, which is a public sector undertaking. And you have the MC Palle and Kottala villages, which are very close to the mine. Kottala is like almost, 70 meters from half a mile, less than half a mile. There are residents living next to the tailing pond of Tummanapalli uranium mine and mill. The tailing pond is basically a place where all the waste from the milling and mining process is deposited. And is deposited. As you see, here's the tailing pond, and here's the MC Palle hamlet. We also have the Tummanapalli mine and mill over here. From the tailing pond to the Tummanapalli mine and mill, the distance is about 5 kilometers, and it's connected to a system of 5 pipes. The waste that is being generated in the mine and mill after the milling process, alkyl leaching. This waste, consisting of about 19 chemicals, is deposited in the tailing pond. Approximately 73,000 tons of chemical waste is generated from the uranium milling and mining operations every month. It's not just in total until now, it's every month. The estimate is around 9 lakhs, I guess, over 5 or 6 years count. 9 lakh ton, it holds 9 lakh ton of waste. So that being said, I'm sorry about this. So what actually happened in the tailing pond is that the farmers actually found out that the agricultural borewell was contaminated in 2016. The agricultural borewell looks something like what's on the screen. And the water from this borewell turned white and salty in taste. They generally gargle the water. If they find something wrong with the water, they gargle it to see what's the problem. That is the first method that the farmers used to know, because the state is not informing them that there is a contamination issue. They have to get to know it through their own bodies. And that's probably one of the initial phases in which people were exposed to this contaminated water. You can see the water that is being released from tailing pond and the water that is there in the farmlands that is being distributed onto the farmlands from the borewell, agricultural borewell in each farms. They almost look similar color also. That's why the farmers also thought, okay, what if this water is what if the water in the tailing pond, the tailing pond are seeping underground into the underground aquifers water table, and it's getting into our borewells, into our agricultural borewells. So this is how the problem started. Environmental governance at Tumanapalle, as I explained, is divided between the nuclear authorities, which is watched over by the Atomic Energy Commission of India, and it's regulated by the Atomic Energy Regulatory Board. They set the safety standards, guidelines for management and nuclear energy production, whereas the pollution control authorities are different. These are nuclear authorities whom I just outlined. The pollution control authorities under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and they provide the consent for establishing these kind of industrial operations. And when they provide these consent for establishment, they also give requirement. They lay out specific requirement that the industry has to follow. The problem is that most people, what they're saying, most of the farmers who are saying is that the tailing pond has not been lined properly, adequately, and that is how the contestation happened. So once the farmer tasted these water, and there was water stains everywhere at the whole, this is the drip pipe that you're seeing right underneath on the soil. There's a pipe, right? So this drip pipe basically carries the water from the agricultural bore wells into the farm, and at the dripping point, the point where the water gets distributed onto the land, which is called the drip holes, you see the white sedimentation. This is possibly due to the salts that are used in the chemical leaching process, right? I think sodium NaOH, that is something that's used in the leaching process. And on the left side also, you can see many of the pipes have these white sedimentation. It's common in Palle and Kottala. So once they figured out this white sedimentation is happening, they called Srinath Reddy, who's unable to join us today because of a personal emergency. So yeah, like Srinath Reddy, sir basically sent the water samples to the Center for Materials for Electronics Technology, because this is a centrally recognized center. So they don't have to be like, generally the authorities come when we show these water contamination from local areas, they generally say that, okay, you have fabricated evidence in a laboratory that you know, but they went in very strategically, very calculated. You can see how much local people are aware of the politics that's happening, right? So they're very much aware. They went to a centrally recognized laboratory, and the uranium contamination was proven to be like somewhere from 690 ppb in most of the water sample, and at times it was to 4,000 particles per billion uranium concentration was there. And then Ramanjeyenellu's farm, who's joined us today, it was the worst contamination. Uranium was 690 particles per billion, whereas the safe level for uranium concentration in the water is 60 particles per billion. Although the safe levels doesn't always mean that they're not going to be affected with health issues. Safe levels is something that has been contested historically in nuclear, regulation making. The safe standards are not generally, does not mean that people are not affected by health, people's health are not affected. It's a standard that is generally used to allow nuclear energy to flourish. So by saying that people are safe, following this much standard, people will remain safe, something like that. So yeah, so the Pollution Control Board came to know about this contamination, and they went and told the UCIL to check pollution at Tumanapalle. And they issued a show cause notice. And as a response to the show cause notice, basically what the Tumanapalle Uranium Mine Mill and UCIL said was, the tailing pond has been laid with clay material with desired thickness to attain the required, to make sure the thickness would make sure the tailings would not seep into the underground. So they've lined the tailing pond with clay material. And this was as per AERB safety guidelines, is what they said. And AERB issues these safety guidelines for every nuclear operation. So, so then we have the Department of Atomic Energy also came in and supported UCIL, which is the department that is in charge of promoting, nuclear energy or peaceful use of nuclear energy. So it also said that the clay lining does not allow permeability, and it ensures that the tailings, 19 chemical containing tailings with radioactive tailings, they are contained within the pond. So there's no possibility of this percolation. There's no possibility of water seeping underground. And this is because of the ARB guideline, because ARB safety guidelines are adequate. That's what they said. But the Andhra Pradesh Pollution Control Board, in providing the consent for establishment, had actually told that you have to line the tailing pond with 3 layers, right? They've only given the clay layer. They've not given any other layer. But according to nuclear safety guidelines, clay is sufficient. According to the Pollution Control Authority, clay is not sufficient. You need bentonite lining, you need polyethylene layer, and so on and so forth. So, so the Pollution Control Board was displeased and said that you should have done it as an extra precautionary measure at the end of this communication. And UCIL also further substantiated. Basically, it said that, okay, we know that there is no migration into the underground because we've been collecting samples from so-called monitoring bore wells. They have laid bore wells in an area that possibly never could get contaminated, as the farmers point out. This area will not get contaminated. They've laid the bore wells in that area, and they claim to have laid these bore wells, and they say that the water samples collected from these bore wells do not have any pollution in them. So we know that our activities are not polluting. And all engineering measures are in place for safety of tailing at Tummanapalli, ensuring safe containment of tailings. This is what they say, right? And over and over again, we see this emphasis on safety. But people are telling that we have issues. We have health issues. We have environmental issues. Like this woman who also said that she faced a spontaneous abortion when she was 6 weeks into pregnancy. But she told that my spontaneous abortion was not counted by local health workers. And she says that it's not the problem of the local health workers also, because they have been instructed to not count women's abortion after 90 days until and after. Only abortion when it happens after 90 days, it's supposed to be counted. So the health department basically skews the record through instructions, is what she says. Most people face abortions, however, within 30 to 60, spontaneous abortion within 30 to 60 days, right? So, and so Srinath Reddy sir said that because the local health workers feel that if the abortion rate is high and they're not able to bring it under control or say what is the cost of it, they'll be punished. So they are not providing proper record. They are not, maintaining proper record because they'll be questioned. That's why they are not providing proper record. They're not recording the spontaneous abortions that are rampant in Tummanapalli. Based on my survey, 44% of women's pregnancy, 44% of pregnancies end in spontaneous abortion. And this is something that needs to be looked at, because 33% is considered as a normal, as the national average, but 44% is too much in a particular area. And one of the Anganwadi worker herself in 2019, when this became an issue, she told that there is health problem, but we cannot associate it to doctors or scientists because doctors and scientists are not associated to uranium contamination. We cannot conclusively say that this health problem is because of the uranium operations that are happening in Tummanapalli uranium mine and mill. So then the people ask, we understand that nobody can insist, but people are, as Srinath Reddy sir told this, that people constantly ask, why are they not believing us? The women have evidence, and they are saying, when women come and say that it's because of UCIL, they are asking them, apparently the health authorities, how can you say it's because of UCIL? There is no evidence. UCIL has not associated the level of risk that mining operations have to reproductive health. So this is one of the problem. And as I showed you how UCIL has not made sure that the responsibility for contamination doesn't come on them, they've done it through constantly saying that they followed the AERB safety guidelines. So what does that safety guidelines mean? Basically is, nuclear safety. By safety, what they mean is We are going to make safe technology. We are going to make safe design. We are going to make everything, we are going to release radiation only in safe levels. And we believe that by doing that, people will be protected from radiation. But nuclear safety is only one of the nuclear regulation role. There is another role called radiation protection, which is much wider. Radiation protection means you, at any cost, you need to like protect people from effects of exposure to ionizing radiation. However, this has not happened. And in 2006, the distinction that was traditionally made between nuclear safety and radiation protection was collapsed. They told that IAEA told that the International Atomic Energy Agency, which basically sets the standards and all, they told that nuclear safety is same as radiation protection. Whereas it's not so. Nuclear safety is just what you do with technologies. Radiation protection, you have to protect people's health from ionizing radiation. They basically made these two one and the same, which has huge regulatory implication. So who was part of this fundamental safety principles drafting? World Health Organization. Today on World Health Day, we are World Health Day, we are commemorating the founding of the World Health Organization. And the World Health Organization has been part of this constant strategy to point out that we have ensured safety so people will not be affected. That's what they constantly believe, but that doesn't mean, even as you ensure safety, doesn't mean people will be protected, because there is no conclusive scientific evidence that safe levels of radiation and safe design actually will end up protecting people from radiation. In this last 70 years of nuclear research, there has been no consensus among scientific community that safe levels of radiation does not affect human body. And I'm sure Pugazhyenthi sir will talk something to it. But it is not, IAEA itself says that nuclear safety and radiation protection is not the same. It says radiation protection is very much simpler if the source in question is under control. So you're making the job of protecting people easier through the nuclear safety approach. And we are constantly here, nuclear energy is safe. This is what they mean by nuclear energy is safe. So in future, we shouldn't just ask if nuclear energy is safe. We have to ask, are people protected from radiation risks that come from nuclear operation? That is the question we have to ask. The question is not whether nuclear energy is safe. The question is, are we protecting people from radiation risk? And since nuclear safety only addresses technologies, radiation protection centers people and the effects of ionizing radiation on them. These days, you should definitely check this book out. These days, people's nuclear scholars are bringing health aspects more evidently. In nuclear dissent, historically, land and livelihood concerns were predominant, and versus it was not so in it is not. Now the terrain is changing. Scholars are questioning the health risks that are coming in this area when nuclear facilities are attacked, as Monavi Bhadra Haynes in the book People Against Nuclear Energy in her chapter, and even Maya Sikina. She's also they've also kind of worked on. They've also showed how the Jor and Thuramdi in Jadaguda and Thuramdi, they are shifting, the organization is shifting the focus from land and compensation struggles to health issues. So this is one of the reasons why we are bringing this session today, and we'll have people speaking. Radiant Infrastructures by Rahul Mukherjee, Kudankulam in Ramendra Kaur's work, they all highlight how epidemiological studies are being carried out in these areas. And so let's without any further ado, we can just jump into this session. And I would invite first Dr. Babu Rao to give his extensive studies that he's carried out on environmental contamination in Tummanapalli, along with late Jayashree, who's not with us anymore. Please, Babu Rao, sir, if you can go ahead.
Hello, friends. So Misria has already covered some part of it. Of course, I was not planning to say that, but she has missed some points. I will clarify them and then go to what I want to speak. I have some 3 slides. Can I take the slides on this? You here?
Sure. Yeah. You'll be able to share screen. It's on the bottom.
Yeah. Let's see. Reaction apps. So it was share screen. Okay.
We'll take question and answers towards the end.
Okay. Sure. Put it in show more. No? Okay. I want to speak on environmental injustice issues at Malbal and everywhere it is so. But for example, if you go to our Ministry of Environment and Forest website, you won't find the words environmental justice and environmental injustice. These things do not exist for them. This is the most unfortunate aspect of it. Yes, sir. Sorry, just 1 minute. It's urgent. Bharat garu, nenu meeting lo unnanandi, nenu oka araganta. Somebody is asking. So this basically what we were associated with the development of the uranium mining and processing issue right from the public hearing in 2006, time of public hearing. Initially, there were problems about particularly MC Palle and Bomayagar Palle villages, where they had white powder coming in their water. Then we sent a geologist to study there. Because they had to dig deeper wells, this problem came up. When actually the project was proposed, the water levels in the bore wells were quite shallow. They were not very deep. Once the mining has started, all the water in the top layer of the groundwater has actually drained into the main mine. So they have to go for deeper and deeper bore wells. So at a huge expense, it has actually added to the cost to the farmers, and nobody paid any compensation for the loss of groundwater because of the mine. Then next thing is happened was loss of agriculture and health problems also. Sometimes the pipeline breaking and all the highly alkaline plus 12 pH slurry leaking onto the fields, and all those things happened at that time. But coming to the version of the AERB guidelines, etc. See, AERB guidelines cannot be over the Pollution Control Board guidelines. If the company wanted to follow AERB guidelines, they have to take prior permission from PCB and exemption from PCB to follow the AERB guidelines. AERB cannot pass over because it's a chemical issue. It's not purely nuclear issue. This chemical pollution is completely with the ministry because they have taken environmental clearance and obtained consent for establishment from the APPCB and MOEF. Because of that, when the lining was suggested, they should have taken exemption. They have not taken. But the lining also, the lining suggested by the APPCB has no basis. On what basis they have suggested that lining, nobody knows. And they used the term thickened tilings disposal. How did the term came? How? Because the Pollution Control Board, there is no way of knowing what thickened tilings disposal means, because they have no exposure to that area of work. It's probably the UCIL itself has been telling them, we are disposing the tailings in a thickened manner so that there won't be any seepage, there won't be much liquid falling into the tailings pond. That's how. But when the Pollution Control Board gave the permission for operating the plant at the initial stages, they never looked at whether they have fulfilled the conditions presented in the EC or CFE. They simply gave the CFO consent to operate. That was their first mistake, major mistake. Now after that they started, now they deny that we have already lined, they talk about it. The next problem came up is in 2017, when one of the banana plantations, Mr. Maheshwar Reddy from Palle village, he found that his banana plants were dying. So at that time, Madam Jayashree, she helped him complain to the district collector and take the samples and get them analyzed at Krishi Vigyan Kendra. When they analyzed, they found that the groundwater contains too much of salts, and so this water is unfit for irrigation. C4S1 or category or something they were classified. The sodium and potassium content was about 24.4 milli equivalents in that water. So that water was unfit for irrigation and the plantations died. Then slowly within 2-3 months, many farmers noted that. Many farmers noted that their banana plantations were dying. At that time, again, we came into picture. We visited the tailings pond, and then we found that there is no lining, because you don't require any expertise to say that there is no lining. Just now, the Misria has shown you on some pictures in the beginning, the dropping of the liquid on the bund, on the edges of the tailings pond. You can see the eroded part, white salt precipitated there. If there is a lining there, there cannot be any erosion, because the lining should be resistant to the falling of the liquid. Its permeability, they say, is 10 to the power of -9 meters per second. If you can calculate seepage at 10 to the power of -9 also, there will be some seepage. That's why we asked the UCL, PCB and the expert committees to show us that at 10 to the power of -9, that the reading that they gave for the standard, for the lining, that there will be no seepage. They were not able to produce any such thing. Whereas we produced the calculations and showed that there will be so much leakage. Not only that, with the funding from the atomic energy, Anna University faculty have done a study for the Nalgonda uranium tailings pond. And there in that paper, they said, for the tailing pond proposed there, at the 10 to the power of -9 meters per second permeability, there will be 69.19 meter cube per day of seepage. So is it acceptable? What level of seepage is acceptable according to the EERB standards? There is nothing like such standards. Simply whatever occurs to them, they put. Even that lining is not laid, and you can see from the photographs available, even what Misria has also shown in the beginning. You can see the grass on within the pond. You can see plants within the tiling pond. If there is grass and plants within the tiling pond, how do you say you have lined? When you line it and compact it, how can there be all these plants and grass? Which is a common sense. You don't have to be a scientist for that. So they are able to get away saying anything, and Pollution Control Board is watching helplessly because of the power centers that are behind the UCIL. UCIL is covering up its incompetency, its mistakes using the access to power. That's all. And Pollution Control Board, whose main duty is to protect the people, has miserably failed, and we should call it public betrayal. Pollution Control Board has resorted to public betrayal in this measure. They kept on delaying without any action. Even if we write with all the details, with literature, with evidences, they never care about it. Simply, they will find a team of academics and somebody who has no exposure to any industry, who has no exposure to mining. They come straight away from their classrooms to the site, and they sign wherever they are asked to sign, and they go away. I don't know how. This whole problem in this particular case is because of the so-called experts who have no ethics, who have never cared about the scientific integrity. This is the problem. One of the 11-member committee which has visited after the hue and cry from these farmers when they lost the agriculture was, they said there is no lining. They agreed. And one of the members of the committee was an AERB senior official. Mr. Vishnu. He also signed that. On that aspect, they could not bluff because it is visible. But towards the end, what they said is, there is not adequate data to say that there is a seepage. What data they wanted? They should have given a list to the PCB saying that we want this data. Who has to give that data? Either PCB or UCL. Why UCL has not generated that data? This is the problem. Simply escapism and protecting the company, a polluter, using some jargon of the science against the people. This is the whole problem. Next came the IIT Madras study. When the committee has not been able to do, when there was protest against the committee's findings, ultimately PCB has sponsored a study at IIT Madras. We thought it's a prestigious institution and they may do a good work. But unfortunately, they have done also a very shabby work without any concern for the unfortunate part is the fee is paid by the people's money. This is the government of Andhra Pradesh. And that is not a small money. It is about more than 50 lakhs, including taxes. It is about 60 lakhs. And for that purpose, there is no role in the entire report. There is no word in the entire report about the farmers' problem. The pollution control, the IIT study was asked particularly to see how why the agriculture is affected, where from the salts are coming. The study has totally neglected that aspect and they only concentrated on uranium. That too, what is the data they have collected? Some borewell water samples and their analysis, nothing more. Such data was available earlier also. There was nothing new these people have done. They said the modeling is not done, tracer studies are not done. They have not done any seepage calculations. They have not even done the water balance calculations across the tailings pond. And ultimately, and the company never cooperated with them. The company never, they have written in that report only, they wanted some data. The company refused. Finally, they asked for so-called monitoring wells that Misria was referring to. They are not monitoring wells. We verified it. When initially the project was to take off, they were to study the hydrological studies. For that purpose, NGRI was commissioned. I spoke to the engineer, who not scientist, who was actually involved with that work, and he told me that those wells were actually installed only for the purpose of finding the groundwater flow velocity, in which direction and how it is flowing. It has nothing to do with the monitoring wells. They are all located haphazardly away from the pond. For monitoring well location, there are international standards. There are no national standards. PCB is not even aware of what a monitoring well is. They have never collected any samples from them because there's no water in those monitoring wells. That when the mining was not started, there was water in the top layer. But now once the mining was started, all the 7 bore wells, they have dried out. And other 3 wells which are there, according to the IIT themselves, they say is, they were not yielding any water because according to the CPCB standards, when you are taking water sample from a bore well, you cannot simply grab a sample. That's not allowed. The stagnant water part is to be pumped out. You have to draw the water from actually the groundwater layer. For that, you need to install pumps. None of the boreholes have any installed pump. When we demanded from the BCB that they should install the pumps, when they hired, UCL refused to do that. They hired somebody they wanted to install. When they installed the pump there is no water to be pumped. So that is the level of our so-called regulatory agencies.
Yes. Can you wrap up in a minute and we can
yes. Yeah, okay. This is because you have raised that issue. I wanted to clarify it. So next, this is, you can see so much of salts that are there deposited on this. What is happening to these salts? Nobody is talking about them. They use alkaline leach process. They use tons and tons of sodium carbonate for extracting uranium from the ore, and the ore is powder to below 200 mesh, fine powder. So then only they can extract something. So when they are putting that liquid waste into slurry into the tiling pond, you can see all the grass. And they say they have lined it. They have partially lined it. What is the meaning of partial lining? When they are openly bluffing, why is the regulatory agency simply silent? You can see the salt deposits all across the field. This is so evident. None of the experts have taken cognizance of it. And now they go to the IIT Madras report. They simply, I don't know, where is the data in science? Science is, I understand, science is evidence-based. You are not supposed to make any statements without actual data. There is no discernible dissolved uranium plume emanating from the tiling pond. How they have decided? No data is presented. They have not done any seepage measurements. They have not done any seepage calculations. There is no monitoring bore well. On what basis they have made that conclusion? They have not explained that. Simply made a statement because it is convenient for them to close the project. Because the company was not, they were vexed with UCIL. They were not cooperating. So they wanted to somehow get rid of. People are not an issue because people cannot protest. People will not know. This report was also kept secret for more than a year. This report has come out with a great difficulty. We asked the Pollution Control Board engineers, this is the public money. The late JS3 has actually applied for that under right RTI info, but they have never given that copy. Why is the Pollution Control Board protecting UCIL by wrong means? Why is it the people's money spent is not being made public? To establish beyond doubt, in the very next conclusion, they say to establish beyond doubt that tiling pond is not the cause of uranium contamination in the vicinity. There is a need to install new monitoring bore wells. One time you are saying without the monitoring well data, we cannot conclusively say, but there you have already concluded that there is no dissolved uranium plume. They themselves are contradicting their own statements. This is very pathetic and we feel very upset about it because most of us have some relations with the institute. I am also an alumnus. So I feel very bad and very pained about this kind of a study. The presence of groundwater uranium concentrations in upstream areas of industry, there is significant. Why are they talking only about uranium? The actual farmers' problem is with the salts. That is what is harming the actual agriculture. They are not talking about it. They are only talking about uranium. Kanampalli village is located away from the, not in the flow direction, but is about 2-3 kilometers away from that tiling pond. They say has concentrations of uranium. There also their high concentrations are there. I was looking for the old data, which was submitted by UCL itself for the public hearing they proposed in 2020. In that they showed that in some bore wells which are not striking through the uranium layer, they are also showing very high levels of uranium. So there is no consistent generalized theory to say uranium is reaching from natural causes from some which are not going through the striking through the uranium layer, they are showing more, and some which are striking through the uranium layer showing low. So somebody has to work on the geochemistry of that uranium layers and then come out with the theory how the same bore wells, each bore well is giving a different value of uranium leaching. Why is the process different? They have to explain. They are not doing that. Water balance analysis performed earlier in the interim report. They say, which interim report it is not come out, we don't know. Without the flow rate data of what is entering into the tiling pond, what is taken through the decant pond, what kind of balance they have done is not known. This is relevant to say that 1,000 experiments cannot prove me right, Albert Einstein said, but one experiment can prove me wrong. We can say that whatever is given here is wrong by one Simple logic. Simple logic, you can say whatever is the report given is wrong. And then also they have given 4 questions and answers. These 4 questions which they have answered in the final part of the report, it is just 28-page report. This is not a big report. They have added some annexures. In the annexures also, they have not given numerical data. They have given pictorial data for the quality of this one, so that you cannot immediately relate to it. What is the general ground flow direction in the tilings pond? This was done much before. In 2013-14 only somebody, this Mekon and others have done. Did the tiling dam result in groundwater contamination in the adjoining villages? They say no. They say that it is not done. That is what they have concluded without any evidence. If there is evidence of groundwater, when they say there is no evidence, then this question doesn't happen. They say there is no plume. Is the contamination anthropogenic or natural? The convenient way for them was to say natural. They got away with it. And they got their full money, because there is nobody in PCB who can vet the report and who can comment on the report. Simply because they're afraid. Because most of them don't understand anything. Because their survival depends on not understanding the science. That is the issue. Because this is run by Babus. Babus only know how to control. They don't care about science. They don't care about inputs. That is the whole situation. That is our experience also when we attended task force meetings. They will simply listen and they do whatever they want to do. They just don't value science.
Yeah.
I don't know how regulatory agencies, I think I will stop here. This is already said. Okay, thank you. This doesn't stand to falsifiability by the Karl Popper's philosophy of science. So the whole report is wrong. It's unfortunate that such reports are presented against the people and in support of the polluters. This is a very painful thing. Thank you.
Yeah, it's absolutely. The situation is very dire right now in Emsipalli, Kottala, Kanampalli villages. People are staying there. Like Ramanjeyenellu sir once told me that, we are going to die drinking this water. We are going to die, ma'am. We are going to die. That's what exactly he told. And there was another woman who told me that everywhere in the world, when women see a pregnancy test, they become happy. But when we see a pregnancy test, we start anticipating whether we'll be able to continue to carry this baby until delivery, right? Their fetus until delivery. So the situation is extremely dire, and we need to do something about this. And thank you so much. And of course, the emphasis that Babu sir gave on chemical contamination, like, beyond uranium, beyond radioactive contamination, nuclear operations are also important to be looked at. And increasingly through compound variability studies, scholars are looking at it. Right now, I will request Ashlata ma'am to introduce Mohan Babu and Ramanjeyenellu, farmer Ramanjeyenellu, and Mohan Babu, who is a resident of Kottala. Please introduce them and they can talk after this. Can I please ask Mohan Babu and Ramanjeyenellu farmer to switch on their video?
Hello, now we are going to listen to Mohan Babu, who is a resident of Kottala village, which is in close vicinity to the mining site. And he is going to talk about the health hazards faced by the residents of the village. And we have beside him, we have Mr. Ramanjeyenellu, is a farmer, and his farm is highly contaminated with 690 PBB, and but still he's experimenting how to do farming in that contaminated field. So first, let us listen to Mohan Babu garu. Mundu meer maatladandi.
Can you please introduce them in Telugu once, please?
Okay, Mohan Babu garu Kottala grama nivasi. Ayana akkada adi mining దగ్గరలో ఉంది ఆ విలేజ్, ఆ గ్రామము. అక్కడ ప్రజలు ఎదుర్కొంటున్న ఆరోగ్య సమస్యలు ఇంకా మిగతా సమస్యల గురించి మోహన్ బాబు మాట్లాడతారు. తర్వాత రామాంజనేయులు గారు రైతు అక్కడ ఎంసీపల్లి నుంచి. ఆయన పొలంలో విపరీతంగా పొల్యూషన్, ఇది కంటామినేషన్ జరిగింది ఎక్కువగా, చాలా ఎక్కువగా. అయినా కూడా ఆయన చాలా ప్రయోగాలు చేస్తున్నారు. అంత పొల్యూషన్, కాలుష్యం ఉండి కూడా పంటలు ఎలా పండించవచ్చు, తన తోటలు ఎలా పెంచుకోవచ్చు అని చేస్తున్నారు. సో ముందుగా మోహన్ బాబు మాట్లాడతారు.
నమస్కారం మేడం, ప్యానల్ కు చేసిన పెద్దలందరికీ నమస్కారం. మాది వేముల మండలం, కడప జిల్లా, కేకే కొట్టాల విలేజ్. నా పేరు మోహన్ బాబు. నేను ఒక రైతును. ఆ యురేనియం సంబంధించిన టైలింగ్ పాండ్ బౌండరీ వాల్ ఎడ్జ్ లో మాకు ల్యాండ్ ఉంది, 4 ఎకరాల పొలము. ఇక్కడ దాదాపు అంటే 2009లో ప్రొడక్షన్ స్టార్ట్ అయింది. అప్పుడు టైలింగ్ పాండ్ యురేనియం సంబంధించిన వ్యర్థ పదార్థాలన్నీ అక్కడ శుద్ధి చేసి వచ్చిన వ్యర్థ పదార్థాలను మొత్తం తీసుకొచ్చి మా కొట్టాల గ్రామ సమీపంలో ఉన్న టైలింగ్ పాండ్ లో వదులుతున్నారు. అక్కడ వచ్చేసి ఎటువంటి పట్ట అనేది కింద వేయకోకుండా నార్మల్ గా వదిలేశారు. దాని ప్రభావం అప్పుడు స్టార్టింగ్ లో మాకు కనిపించలేదు. అది నిదానంగా అక్కడ ప్రొడక్షన్ ఎక్కువ అయ్యే కొద్దీ దాని ప్రభావం వచ్చేసి అది అన్ని లూజ్ సాయిల్స్, ఆ వాటర్ అంతా లీకేజ్ అయ్యేసి మా బోర్వెల్స్ లలో ప్లస్ మా డ్రింకింగ్ వాటర్స్ లో మొత్తం పొల్యూట్ అయింది. పొల్యూట్ అయిన తర్వాత నిదానంగా ఒక్కొక్కరికి చర్మ వ్యాధులు, స్కిన్ డిసీజెస్ రావడం స్టార్ట్ అయినాయి. కాళ్ళ నొప్పులు, శ్వాసకోశ వ్యాధులు ఇలా ఒక్కొక్కటే స్టార్ట్ అవుతా వచ్చినాయి. అది పొలాల పైన కూడా పంటను మేయడం స్టార్ట్ చేసింది, పంట పొలాలను మొత్తం తినడం స్టార్ట్ చేసింది. అది నిదానంగా పబ్లిక్ లో పెద్ద ఇష్యూ అయ్యేసరికి దాన్ని ఒకటి బయటికి రావడం జరిగింది. మా ఊర్లో క్యాన్సర్ వ్యాధితో ఒక 2-3 మహిళలు చనిపోయారు. ఇప్పటికీ కూడా ఆ స్కిన్ డిసీజ్ చాలా వరకు ఉన్నాయి. చాలా మందికి గర్భస్రావము కోల్పోయారు. కానీ ఇక్కడ దీని గురించి ఎంత మాట్లాడినా పట్టించుకునే వాళ్ళైతే ఎవరు లేరు. దీన్ని పూర్తి స్థాయిలో పైకి తీసుకుపోయే వాళ్ళు కూడా ఎక్కడ కనిపించడం లేదు. అప్పట్లో దీని మీద చాలా వరకు ఒక ఉద్యమమే చేశాము అందరం. అప్పుడు మన మానవ హక్కుల మేడం గారు, జయశ్రీ మేడం గారు, మన బాబురావు సార్ గారు దీని మీద చర్య తీసుకొని ఇక్కడ ప్రజల కోసం కష్టపడి శ్రమించి వాళ్ళు ఇక్కడికి వచ్చి ఇక్కడ ప్రజలకు ఏదో న్యాయం చేయాలనే ఆలోచనతో ఇక్కడికి వచ్చారు. వస్తే కూడా ఇక్కడ ఉన్న అధికారులు కొంతమంది యూసీఎల్ మేనేజ్మెంట్ ఇక్కడ అధికారులతో కొమ్ము కాసి బాబురావు సార్ను కూడా రానికుండా అడ్డుకొని స్టేషన్ వరకు తీసుకెళ్లడం జరిగింది. దాని తర్వాత ఇక్కడ ప్రజలు తిరస్కరించేసరికి మళ్ళీ సార్ను పిలిపించారు. ఇక్కడ జరుగుతున్న అన్యాయము మన రాష్ట్రానికే కాదు, చాలా వరకు అందరికీ తెలుసు. ఏమి తెలిసినా ఈ సెంట్రల్ గవర్నమెంట్ ప్రాజెక్టు కావడం వలన దీని మీద ఎవ్వరు కూడా అవగాహన చూపిలేకపోతుంటారు, ఇక్కడ ప్రజలకు మేలు చేయలేకపోతున్నారు. ప్రజలైతే ఈ ప్లాంట్ వల్ల చాలా వరకు ఇబ్బంది పడుతున్నారు. రాష్ట్రంలో కాదు, స్టేట్ లో కాదు, వరల్డ్ లో ఎక్కడా లేని ప్రాజెక్టు తీసుకొచ్చి మన పులివెందుల ప్రాంతంలో రాజశేఖర రెడ్డి సార్ పెట్టాడు. ఆ రోజు పెట్టేటప్పుడు కూడా ఇక్కడ ప్రజలు ఒప్పుకోకపోతే మీ అందరికీ మంచి భవిష్యత్తు ఉంటుంది, ఉపాధి ఉంటుంది అని చెప్పి ఇక్కడ ప్లాంట్ తీసుకురావడం జరిగింది. సరేలే అని చెప్పి కొంతమంది ఒప్పుకున్నారు, కొంతమంది ఒప్పుకోలేదు. ఏది ఏమైనా కానీ ప్లాంట్ స్థాపించినారు. ఇక్కడ బాధిత గ్రామాలకు ఎప్పటికైనా మేలు జరుగుతుంది, ప్రతి గ్రామానికి ఒక ఇంటికి ఒక ఉద్యోగం కల్పిస్తాము అన్ని కొన్ని భరోసాలు ఇవ్వడం జరిగింది. ఇచ్చిన తర్వాత సర్లే అని చెప్పేసి ఇక్కడ ప్లాంట్ సహకరించి కొంతమంది భూములు ఇచ్చారు. ఇచ్చిన తర్వాత ప్లాంట్ పెట్టుకొని ప్రొడక్షన్ స్టార్ట్ చేసుకున్నారు. వాళ్ళ వరకు బాగానే ఉంది. కానీ తర్వాత కాలాంతరం రాజశేఖర రెడ్డి సార్ మరణించారు. మరణించిన తర్వాత దీని మీద మాట్లాడే వాళ్ళు అయితే ఎవరు లేరు. తర్వాత కూడా మన జగన్ సార్ దృష్టికి కూడా మేము తీసుకుపోవడం జరిగింది ఈ సమస్య మీద. సార్ కూడా న్యాయం చేస్తాను, మీకు ఖచ్చితంగా ఇక్కడ మన లోకల్ పీపుల్కు అన్యాయం జరగనివ్వని చెప్పారు. తర్వాత ఇంకా దాని గురించి ఎవరు పట్టించుకోలేదు. మేము చాలా సార్లు చెప్పి చూసినాము. ఏం చెప్పాలన్నా కానీ ఇక్కడ కేసులు, పోలీస్ వ్యవస్థను బాగా యూసీఎల్ కంపెనీ కంట్రోల్లో పెట్టుకొని ఇక్కడ మాకు చాలా వరకు వ్యవస్థను ఉపయోగిస్తున్నారు. వీళ్ళకు ఉన్న ఏకైక వ్యవస్థ పోలీస్ వ్యవస్థే. ఎంతసేపు పోలీసులను పట్టుకొని వీళ్ళు పనులు చేసుకుంటున్నారు, వీళ్ళు చేయడం లేదు. టైలింగ్ పాండ్ లో అది ఎప్పుడు కూడా వాటర్ తో నిండి ఉండాల్సిన టైలింగ్ పాండ్ ఎప్పుడు కూడా వాటర్ ఉన్న దాఖలాలే లేవు. టైలింగ్ పాండ్ పూర్తి అయిపోయి మూసివేయాల్సిన టైంలో మళ్ళీ టైలింగ్ పాండ్ ఎక్స్టెన్షన్ కు పోయి ఇక్కడ రైతులను ఎవరిని ఒప్పించకుండా, ప్రజాప్రాయ సేకరణ తీసుకోకుండా టైలింగ్ పాండ్ ఎక్స్టెన్షన్ చేశారు. ఆ ఎక్స్టెన్షన్ కోసం దాదాపు 80-90 కోట్లు వెచ్చించి ఖర్చు చేశారు. ఆ ఖర్చు చేసిన తర్వాత కూడా పెద్ద పెద్ద కాంట్రాక్టర్లు వచ్చారు. వాళ్ళ స్వలాభాల కోసం ఏదో అరకొర పనులు చేసి కప్పెట్టేసి కాంట్రాక్టులు చేసుకొని పోయినారు. ఇక్కడ ఉన్న గ్రీవెన్సీ మొత్తం తీసేశారు. టైలింగ్ పాండ్ చుట్టూ గ్రీవెన్సీ పెంచాల్సింది, ఉన్న గ్రీవెన్సీ కూడా వీళ్ళు తీసేశారు. ఎక్కడైతే ఏదైతే మట్టి సాయిల్ రైతుల దగ్గర నుంచి కొని తీసుకోవాల్సిన మట్టి కూడా ఆ టైలింగ్ పాండ్ లో ఉన్న గుట్టలన్నీ తవ్వుకొని అదే మట్టిని వాడుకొని ఎటువంటి ఖర్చు లేకోకుండా కాంట్రాక్టులు పూర్తి చేసుకొని కోట్లాది రూపాయలు వాళ్ళ సొమ్ము చేసుకున్నారు. ఇక్కడ ప్రజలకు న్యాయం జరిగే ఆలోచన అయితే ఎప్పటికీ లేదు, జరగదని మేము భావిస్తున్నాము. దీని మీద ఖచ్చితంగా అధికారులు, ఇక్కడున్న పెద్దలందరూ ప్రత్యేకమైన ఒక సిట్టు బృందాన్ని ఏర్పాటు చేసి, ఎవరికి సంబంధం లేని సిట్టు బృందంతో పూర్తి స్థాయిలో ప్రజల దగ్గరకు వెళ్ళి దాని మీద ఎంక్వైరీ చేసి వచ్చిన ఆధారాలతో ఇక్కడ ప్రజలకు న్యాయం చేయాలని మేము కోరుకుంటున్నాము. ఈ యురేనియం ప్రాజెక్టు వల్ల వేల కోట్ల ఆదాయాలు పొందుతున్న సెంట్రల్ గవర్నమెంట్ పొందుతుంది. దాని మీద ఎదిరించి మాట్లాడేదానికి ఎవరికి సాహసం చేయడం లేదు ఎవరు కూడా. కానీ ఏదో ప్రజలు ఏదో కష్టపడి పనులు చేసుకునే వాళ్ళు ఇక్కడ అందరూ భూములు నమ్ముకొని బతికే వాళ్ళే ఉన్నారు. ఇక్కడ ఎటువంటి జాబ్స్ పెద్దగా లేవు. ఇలాంటి మేము కష్టపడి పండించుకుంటున్న భూములు ఈ విధంగా యూసీఎల్ బారిన పడి మేము దాదాపు 10-15 లక్షలు 20 లక్షల దాకా అప్పులు చేసుకున్నాము. ఈ రోజు పంటలు పెట్టలేని పరిస్థితిలో మేము ఉన్నాము. ఆరోగ్య సమస్యలు తీవ్రంగా ఉన్నాయి. మనుషులకే కాకుండా ఇక్కడ పశువులకు చాలా వరకు స్కిన్ డిసీజ్ రావడము, జబ్బులు రావడము. మొన్న రీసెంట్ గా 2 days కిందట కూడా ఒక ఆవు అనేది చనిపోవడం జరిగింది. ఇక్కడ ఉన్న సమస్యల మీద ఎవ్వరూ పట్టించుకోవడం లేదు. యూసీఎల్ కంపెనీ ఎంతసేపు మెడికల్ క్యాంప్స్ పెడతాము, ఏదో అరకొర అని చెప్తారు, 4 మాత్ర టాబ్లెట్స్ ఇస్తారు, వెళ్ళిపోతారు. కానీ ఇక్కడ కావాల్సింది అది కాదు. పూర్తి స్థాయిలో విద్య, వైద్యం కూడా యూసీఎల్ వ్యవస్థ దీని మీద ఖచ్చితంగా చర్యలు తీసుకొని ఇక్కడున్న ప్రజల కోసం ఒక స్కూల్స్ కానీ హాస్పిటల్స్ కానీ నిర్మించాలి. ఎందుకంటే వేల కోట్ల రూపాయలు మా భూముల్లో నుంచి, రైతుల భూముల్లో నుంచి ఈరోజు సంపాదించుకొని రాష్ట్రానికి కాదు దేశానికే గర్వకారమైన ప్లాంట్ పెట్టుకొని సొమ్ము చేసుకుంటున్నారు. కానీ ఇక్కడ ప్రజలకు ఖర్చు చేయాలంటే ఎవరు చేయడం లేదు. వేల కోట్ల కాంట్రాక్ట్లు ఇస్తారు, పనులు చేసుకుంటారు, వాళ్ళ డబ్బులు సొమ్ము చేసుకుంటున్నారు. కానీ ప్రజల దగ్గరకు వచ్చే కొద్దీ ఎవ్వరు ఎటువంటి ఖర్చు పెట్టడం లేదు. ప్రజలు నిలదీసి మాట్లాడితే కేసులు ఇలాంటివన్నీ చేస్తున్నారు. సార్ దయచేసి మీరందరూ ఖచ్చితంగా పూర్తి స్థాయిలో ఈ సమస్యను పైకి తీసుకెళ్ళి ఇక్కడ ఇది అదే మేము అన్నట్టు ఒక సిట్ అనేది నియమించి దాని ద్వారా ఇక్కడ పూర్తి స్థాయిలో గ్రౌండ్ లెవెల్లో వెళ్ళి ఇక్కడ జరుగుతున్న అన్యాయాలను వెలికి తీసి ప్రపంచ స్థాయికి దీన్ని తీసుకపోతే తప్ప వీళ్ళు మాట వినే పరిస్థితిలో లేరు సార్. ఖచ్చితంగా దీన్ని మీరు న్యాయం చేసే విధంగా చూడండి. రాబోయే కాలంలో కూడా ఈ చుట్టుపక్కల ప్రజలు ఎవరు కూడా ఊర్లలో నివసించే పరిస్థితులలో లేరు. ఇప్పటికే చాలా మంది ప్రజలు ఊరు వదిలేసి వెళ్ళిపోతున్నారు. టౌన్లు రకరకాల బయట వాళ్ళు పనులు చేసుకునే కంపెనీల దగ్గరకు వెళ్ళిపోతున్నారు. ఇక్కడ చాలా వరకు అంగవైకల్యాలు, పుట్టే పిల్లలకు కూడా కొన్ని లోపాలు రావడం, జన్యుపరమైన లోపాలు రావడము ఇలాంటి చాలా వరకు జరుగుతున్నాయి సార్. దీని మీద మాట్లాడే వాళ్ళు ఎవరు లేరు సార్. బాబురావు సార్ గారు ఖచ్చితంగా దీనికి సంబంధించి పూర్తి స్థాయిలో తెలిసిన వ్యక్తి ఎవరైనా ఉన్నారు అంటే యూసీఐఎల్ గురించి ఒక బాబురావు సార్ గారే. కానీ సార్ మాట ఎవరు ఇక్కడ వినడం లేదు. సార్కి ఎంతసేపు ఉన్నా సార్ ఏది వీళ్ళ కంపెనీలు లుసుగులు బయట పెడతారో, ఇక్కడ ఉన్న సమస్యలు వెలికి తీస్తారో అని చెప్పేసి సార్ను రానియకుండా అప్పుడు ఆపారు. సార్ ప్రస్తావన ఎప్పుడు కూడా బయటికి తీసుకురానికుండా చేస్తున్నారు. ఎంతసేపు కర్నూలు పొల్యూషన్ కంట్రోల్ సంబంధించి ఈ విధంగా ఇట్లా మేము టెస్ట్ చేస్తున్నాము, చెన్నై వాళ్ళతో టెస్ట్ చేస్తున్నాము అని చెప్తున్నారు తప్ప ఇక్కడ కంపెనీకి సహకరించి అన్ని టెస్టులు చేసుకుంటున్నారు. కానీ అక్కడ ఉన్న రిపోర్ట్ అనేది ఎవరు కూడా బయటికి చెప్పడం లేదు. ఎంతసేపు వాళ్ళకు సంబంధించిన వాళ్ళతోనే టెస్ట్ చేయించుకుంటున్నారు. మేము ఆ కమిటీ వేసాము, ఈ కమిటీ వేసామని చాలా కమిటీలు వేసామని చెప్తున్నారు. ఏ కమిటీ కూడా ప్రజల కోసం పనిచేసిన దాఖలాలు లేవు. అన్ని కమిటీలు యూసీఐఎల్ కోసమే పనిచేస్తున్నాయి. ఆల్మోస్ట్ ఇక్కడ ఉన్న గవర్నమెంట్ పెద్ద అధికారులు, కానీ వాళ్ళ పేర్లు క్యాడర్ చెప్పకూడదు, వాళ్ళు కూడా యూసీఎల్ కోసమే పనిచేస్తున్నారు. ప్రజల కోసం ఎవరు పని చేయలేదు.
అన్న ట్రాన్స్లేట్ అభి కర్నా హై. ఇస్కే బాద్ చిన్న రెడ్డి అన్న విల్ ట్రాన్స్లేట్. Can you tell them, Ashlata ma'am? Then we can have Mohan Babu ma'am.
మీరు మాట్లాడింది నేను ఇంగ్లీష్ లో చెప్తాను మోహన్ బాబు.
ఓకే ఓకే.
తర్వాత రామాంజనేయులు మాట్లాడతారా లేకపోతే చిన్నరెడ్డి మాట్లాడతారా? ఓకేనా? ఓకే. So Mohan Babu was narrating how the residents of the village or affected health hazards suffering people. And he said that he had 4 acres of farm adjacent to the tailing pond boundary. And the salts which were seeping into the water, underground water, and the crops were also getting affected. And people are having suffered with skin diseases, respiratory problems, and cancer like health hazards. And even livestock also, not only people but livestock,
cows and buffaloes, they are also suffered, and recently one cow died yesterday. And women have experienced abortions, and people have really raised their voice to agitate against it. Jayashree Madam and Babu Rao sir have come to their help, but Babu Rao sir was not allowed to go there. And what he says is that the plant was started when Y.S. Rajshekar Reddy was chief minister, and they promised jobs to the local people. So the people gave the land to the project, but later on, after the jobs were not given, but the lands were all destroyed because of the swords. And he says now that present chief minister Jagan Mohan Reddy, also these people have approached him, but he also promised that he will do justice, but nothing is done, he says. And he says that the tailing pond should be having water always, but there is no water, just the salts are there. And no one is, the contractors are making thousands of crores of rupees money, and they're not, like no one is bothered about taking any permissions to, an extension was given for the tailing pond, but there were no permissions for the tailing pond also. And he says that this problem is so huge, but no one is prepared to do any justice to the local people. The UCL is like really deceiving the people. He says that all the studies conducted by the UCL are by the favorable people who are favorable to the company. So all the reports are also like favorable to the company. He says that the company is making so much of money, but they are not spending any of that money to solve the issues like health issues or agriculture issues of the people. So finally, what he says is that a strong voice has to be raised on behalf of the people, and he's kept on insisting that people like Babu Rao sir, who knows the problem from the root cause also, and he has been involved there. He has to raise the issue, and a special investigating team has to be constituted, not just to solve the issues of health or anything, but to go to the roots of the issue and to resolve the issue in a holistic manner, he says. So finally, he says that unless, because we have tried all the way, all the means, but nothing is being done till now. And everyone who has come here also is like not able to do anything. But if this continues, it will be really very difficult for the local people. So all of you who are really like-minded people or human rights activists should come forward to support and see that these issues gets resolved. That's what Mohan Babu says. Thank you, Mohan Babu. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Before Ramanjeyenellu sir will speak on farmer issue, before that, because Pugazhyenthi doctor has to leave at 7:30,
okay,
we can hear some of the insights from him and go to Ramanjeyenellu. Can you Ramanjeyenellu sir, can you translate this to Ramanjeyenellu sir?
Yeah, and so is Ramanjeyenellu speaking now or after Ramanjeyenellu speaks? Misria?
After Pugazhyenthi sir, maybe Pugazhyenthi.
Okay, Ramanjeyenellu garu, Dr. Pugazhyenthi garu unnaru ayana Tamil Nadu nunchi. ఆయన వెళ్ళిపోవాలంట 7:30కి, అందుకని ఇప్పుడు ఆయన మాట్లాడతారు, తర్వాత మీరు మాట్లాడాలి. ఓకేనా? కొంచెంసేపు మీరు ఒక 10 నిమిషాలు ఆగండి. ఓకే, యా, కెన్ గో హెడ్. Pugazhyenthi sir, I think, yeah, he's muted.
Yeah. You muted, sir.
Hello.
Hello, sir. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Shall I go ahead?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, fine. First of all, good evening, everyone. And I must congratulate the organizers for really arranging this kind of a meeting at this crucial juncture. Please understand that India is planning to construct more reactors in the coming years. So we need to know the problems caused by the nuclear reactors. Before going into the nuclear reactors part, let me go into the fundas of the radiation, what we call ionizing radiation. See, basically, people have to know certain thing about radiation, what we call it as ionizing radiation, which which is the culprit from the nuclear industry. See, the basic fundas, no, I would like to say. I think it's on the year 2005. In fact, the US Public Health Department, understand, there is a wing called Report on Carcinogen, ROC. Okay, they only initially officially announced that X-rays, gamma rays, neutrons, they are carcinogens. That is, they can certainly induce cancer. Okay, one. And the second thing is that, see, what is the big difference between the radiation, that is the ionizing radiation, and the other chemicals which induce toxicity, say some pesticides? See, the main difference is that in radiation, there is nothing called safe dose. Okay, this is accepted. Though scientists can debate, but then this is accepted. Now, that is, there is no safe dosage as far as radiation is concerned. Let us say, if you take a pesticide, they will talk of a critical value beyond which it can cause toxicity. But as far as radiation is concerned, please understand that there is nothing called safe dose in radiation, and this is very, very important in terms of health. Number two, many people think that the cancer causing potential of that is what we call carcinogenic potential of atomic bomb. I mean, generally people will say that, yeah, we should not use nuclear weapons and all these things. But science says that the carcinogenic potential of an X-ray is much more than the carcinogenic potential of an atomic bomb. Please understand this. I repeat, the cancer causing potential of X-ray is much more than the carcinogenic potential of an atomic bomb. The reason was very simple. For cancer to occur, you need to have minute changes in the DNA. That is, you have to require at DNA level some minute changes so that cancer will be induced. See, the explanation goes like this. Atomic bomb, it causes a bigger damage which our body senses. So it decides to destroy the cell. And in the process, once the body senses that there is something wrong, when there's a major damage, actually that damaged cell, it got killed, and that process is called apoptosis technically. So whereas X-ray, that is gamma rays, I mean in terms of ionizing radiation I'm saying, it causes minute damage which goes undetected. So it turns a single cell into a cancerous tissue. Cancer generally arises in a single cell. So the problem is that the carcinogenic potential of an X-ray, that is why, because the damage induced by the X-ray is minute and undetected, and our body does not sense it. So the cell becomes cancerous. So this is very, very important. And these points one has to understand. See, generally, because the nuclear industry generally says that, see, whatever which comes out of our nuclear plant is very small, and compared to the natural background, I mean, it is so very small that it does not induce any problem, which is not scientifically true. Because there are certain chemicals, radioactive, what we call radionuclides, which comes out of the nuclear power plant alone. For example, plutonium-239, okay, it's not a natural substance, okay, and it comes to the environment only through the nuclear reactor. And there are some key radioactive nucleotides like iodine-131 and cesium-137, tritium, all these things, okay, they reach the environment and then they cause a lot of health-related problems. And my point is that, see, we need to have a solid data. So my suggestion to the all groups is that, see, let us generate data. I have seen the farmer who was talking, you can talk about the individual problems, but unless, see, because it's a scientific industry, they know the science, but the scientists know, they wanted to defend the nuclear industry. So scientifically, we have to effectively countering them, we have to effectively counter them by our solid data. Like initially, like my interaction with nuclear scientists, it would be very, I mean, it was a very interesting story. My first work was on multiple myeloma, a bone marrow cancer. For the first time, I have shown with my limited study, I have shown that within a limited period, the death due to multiple myeloma, a bone marrow cancer, plasmacytoma, otherwise known as, okay, it was the death due to multiple myeloma was statistically significant in the township area, DAE, Department of Atomic Township area. And I have compared the data with the Adyar Cancer Institute data and other data of multiple myeloma deaths in the specific age group within India. And I had shown that it was statistically significant and it was 4 times higher at Kalpakkam. Please understand that this multiple myeloma, I would like to point out another important issue. Like in US and Japan, there are specific compensatory laws. Like in US, there is a law called Energy Employees Occupational Illness Compensation Program Act, wherein they give compensation for people who are affected by the radiation. Please understand that in their list, even non-cancerous condition like parathyroid adenoma, they were also included. Even it's a parathyroid adenoma which is benign, but even then it was included in the compensation list, in the Energy Employees Occupational Illness Compensation Program Act. In Japan also there was a compensation act. But in India, still we do not have a compensation for nuclear damage. That is radionuclide damage, ionizing radiation damage. Still, we do not have a compensation law, and we should fight for it. I mean, a state, a government should consider the welfare of their citizens. If a state is concerned about the welfare of citizens, they will introduce such compensatory laws, because science is the same in all the countries. So my point is that we need to introduce this kind of a compensatory laws, one. So like I was really happy to see that the presenter, she has presented a beautiful data. Like only such kind of a data will work. Like she says that 44% of the pregnancy ended up in spontaneous abortion. So this kind of a data is very crucial. As far as countering the Department of Atomic Energy. So it's only because of my data, the nuclear department, okay, it has shown a little bit of respect towards my findings. And please remember, in Kalpakkam, the nuclear department, because I had released a little bit of scientific health reports, so the Department of Atomic Energy itself was forced to conduct a study. And there is one epidemiologist by name Manjula Datta. She was appointed by the DAE people at Kalpakkam, and she conducted a study. And in her study, if you look at the raw data, it was really startling. Like when you make a comparison between the villages nearby and the villages far away, okay, cancer is 7 times higher. Cancer is 7 times higher in the villages nearby when compared to the villages far away. And this was department's own study. Please understand that there is one Rajya Sabha MP by name Mr. Tariq Anwar. He has raised the question in the Rajya Sabha that, see, I have come to know that, in Kalpakkam, they say that because of the nuclear radiation, the villages nearby, they had more cancer. Like they say that villages in the nearby region, the cancer incidence was 7 times higher when compared to the villages which are far away. See, the answer was, please understand that they did not deny this point. It was there. You can go to the Rajya Sabha, the report, Tariq Anwar. It was a written report, okay, written statement, a written report where they have admitted the data. Like, yeah, the cancer is, it will be written as 0.21 and this is 0.03%. Okay, that is the data for this distant and nearby villages. Nearby villages, it is 0.21 and distant, it's 0.03. So they say that, yeah, cancer is 7 times higher in the nearby region. And there are other diseases which are statistically significant, like the thyroid disorders, because which may be possibly because of iodine 131, which is a gaseous pollutant, which is released to the stack. And my study has shown that both thyroid cancer as well as there is a disease called autoimmune thyroid disease called Hashimoto's thyroiditis. They were statistically significant in the nearby villages when compared to the faraway villages. And remember, please understand, see, this is where, the department comes in and pitches some wrong scientific information. See, please understand that the Department of Atomic Energy did not deny that the cancer was 7 times higher in the nearby villages. Okay, but what they say is that, see, generally worldwide cancer is increasing. Okay, and see, even in India it is increasing. And when we compare the cancer incidence with Chennai, okay, it was low and our release was low. Okay, this was the kind of a scientific argument put forth by the DIE scientists, but they were not scientifically true for the following reasons. I have written to them, saying that, see, your comparison was wrong. Basically, the comparison was between 2 villages. Okay, that is the nearby villages and far-off villages. That cannot be compared with the, a big metro city like Chennai. You have to compare it with another village only. Okay, and not with Chennai. So in that sense, your comparison was not scientifically correct. Second, see, the another point which they used to say was this. That is, what they say is that, see, there are n number of carcinogens other than radiation, ionizing radiation, which could have caused the cancer incidence shooting up. Okay, but I used to ask them, see, have you done any scientific study, or was it not your responsibility as per IAEA guidelines to conduct a study and show that the cancer near the Kalpakkam power plant is not because of the ionizing radiation, and it's certainly because of the other so-called carcinogens, as you claim. Okay, but the point is that they have not conducted any scientific study to show that the raised incidence of cancer in the nearby villages is not because of the radiation. So where is the science? Okay, so yeah, it was a pleasure. Listening to Dr. Babu Rao, who highlighted everything in a very, very pakka scientific manner. That is why, that is how we have to argue. We have to have a solid data. Okay, so only then we can at least convince the neutral people. See, people who are biased, you will have difficulty in convincing them. Anyway, they are biased. But then for neutral people, if you have a clear data, scientific data, okay, you can probably, try to convince some neutral people. So my point is that certainly, if at all, when we argue against this kind of a nuclear pollution causing health, it is always better to have a solid data. Only then we will be in a position to counter them scientifically. Okay.
Sir. So I wanted to ask a question here. Let's make it a little bit more conversational. So yeah. The question that I wanted to ask was in the case like in places like Kottala and MC Palle, there is a limitation in resources. Organizing, like, scientist panel who will go and study and who will have a reference village and show this, comparison. And of course, Babu Rao sir has put so much effort into this, along with Jayashree ma'am and Srinath Reddy sir and all. So, the sustained action takes a lot of effort, and the resources mostly with activists are very limited. So these individual stories come in and help in these moments. So how do you see this problem of, making very solid argument against this contamination that is happening, using individual stories too, but also like when scientists lack resources, what do we do? What do we do to make sure that we talk about health issues?
Yeah, see,
In a science.
let me answer. See, the point is that even I was not having any resources at all. Nobody helped me. In fact, I mean, I would like to certainly say a few interesting points regarding this multiple myeloma. It was, see, my study was purely accidental. See, I did not have any resources. So I have accidentally come into contact with some of the patients who died of multiple myeloma. That is, we need to keep our ears open, eyes open, brains open all the time. Because see, when I could gather that there were 3 deaths of multiple myeloma within a very short span of time. See, even then, no, see, fortunately, I could collect the data from this cancer hospital at Adyar and other cancer registry information. And then I made a statistical comparison, and then I have shown that it was statistically significant. We should not lose hope. Second. And my second point is that, see, like, let us say some congenital anomalies, which can be induced by the radiation. See, I have chosen one entity which is very visible, since I did not have any resources. Like, I have chosen polydactyly and syndactyly complex as far as Kalpakkam nuclear power plant is concerned. Okay, this kind of an anomaly is visible to everyone. If you visit any village, they will easily say, yeah, polydactyly means 6 fingers. 6 fingers, syndactyly means fusion of the 2 fingers. Okay, and remember, this can be because of hereditary influence also. So you have to rule out both, that is, in the parental circle and in their parents also, no one should have the polydactyly. Okay, and in the absence of polydactyly, if you come across, polydactyly in young children in the nuclear reactor region, again you have to make a comparison with the far-off region. So this is how I did not have any research. Nobody supported me. My friend B.T. Bhatnaman, he suggested that no, we can try that, because in Chernobyl region after the accident, lot of polydactyly cases were reported. Okay, so we wanted to try whether that was the case in Kalpakkam region too. Okay, so I did not have any resources. So again, I had shown that the incidence of polydactyly was statistically significant within the 14-kilometer zone when compared to the 45-kilometer zone. So yeah, true. See, whatever you say is true, because resources, no, it is. I mean, it's not there. And remember, I got the opportunity to talk to safety head, official safety head. Okay, I told them, see, let me also do house-to-house survey in the township region and find out multiple myeloma incidents. Again, that, see, but I did not get the opportunity. Though I have put in a word to the safety head at Kalpakkam at that point of time, then he said, you talk to the AERB and let me know. But then nothing happened. But one more thing I would like to say at this point of time is the right to information data. We can ask, that is, whether the incidence of like whatever which you can see visibly, okay, the incidence is more or not. Because somebody may have data, and it can be, we can probably sometimes see the department and the government officials may try to hide it, but sometimes no, we can get, if we pursue the information and the right information. Like for example, in Tarapur region, there I visited a village called Sinchani, and I met one allopathic doctor there, and he was a great source for me, and because he was working in the government department, and he had given me a lot of information, like the incidence of blastomas, neuroblastomas, nephroblastomas, all which can be induced by the radiation. Okay, retinoblastoma, so many things. So he had given me some information, and some of the information we can try to get it via the right information. See, when we do not have, as you said, the resources, these are the only method. But like the government will not fund it. I mean, this is precisely the problem. Like the department now, see, if you look at the law and the science, the law says polluter pays principle. Okay, it is the responsibility of the department to conduct the study. They pollute, but they ask for data from us. What kind of scientific data you have to show that radiation is the culprit? But in fact, no. See, it is their responsibility as per even IAEA terms. They have to conduct the study, but they don't do. They will say either they don't do, or but all they do, they will give some lame excuses like, yeah, we compared it with Chennai and the data, I mean, it was low compared, I mean, when you compare the Kalpakkam data or the villages data with the Chennai, I mean, the Chennai data was a bit higher, so you don't need to worry. Radiation is not the culprit. So my point is that certainly, see, as you said, resources is a major constraint, but still no, we have to keep our ears open. Otherwise, I would not have got this multiple myeloma data. And I would suggest that this kind of like the polydiactyl data, no, which is visible, and you can compare it with the nearby villages, and you can choose a comparable village in a far off place, and then you can compare the incidence, which is visible, but you don't require much resources for it. Okay, like congenital anomaly, okay, which can be induced, and they say cesium 137. And tritium also, they can cross the placenta. Okay, so it can induce this kind of anomalies. So yeah, when there are no resources, you can go for it. This is what my suggestion is. Unless but you remember that is, if you do not have a data, they always say, yeah, I mean, you're not talking about science, you do not know science, all these things, as if they practice science. Okay, they did not practice science. So these data, like they say, our release is so very minimal. I have asked them. See,
so one other question I have is that's sure that, like, you know, that they need to strengthen the scientific procedure and method in the department. But I was having another question, and you can quickly shortly answer, because we have to go to Ramanjeyenellu and take questions after it as well. If you can quickly answer, you have experience in anti-nuclear activism a lot more. Right, and so we've been focused on only anti-nuclear activism. So would you say that the nuclear activists in India are focusing on health as much as it is needed?
No, that's a problem. Yeah, see, certainly no. See, the problem is that right now I would say that it did not receive much attention except for few studies. It did not receive much attention. As you said, basically this fund crunch is the main setback. But the government should come forward. My friend now, he could do some studies at the Nindakara, where there is a natural high background radiation. So that certain diseases are more. Those scientific paper that leukemia incidence, it was more, and mental retardation was more in the Nindakara region, that is in Kerala. So there he was supported by some group, and one anti-nuclear activist from Canada by name Dr. Rosali Bertel, she supported, I mean, she could get some funds from one Christian group called WCC, and then she could mobilize the fund. But my point is that this health aspect, no, it needs to be highlighted. It was very painful. That is, for me, a couple of days back, I have come across an 18-year-old boy. Please understand, 18-year-old boy with Ewing sarcoma. Ewing sarcoma, bedridden. Ewing sarcoma is a bone cancer. It's a bone cancer, okay, and it occurred in the spinal cord, that is spinal column, and resulting in paralysis. That is, he is not in a position to walk comfortably, and his urinary flow, he could not control the urinary flow, so he was put on catheter. Literally, he was bedridden. 18-year-old boy, okay, he was a son of a contract worker. 18-year-old boy. It was very painful to see that he suffered from Ewing sarcoma, a bone cancer, and for which compensation were available as per Energy Employees Occupational Health Compensation Program Act. And literature says that radiation is one of the established risk factors for this kind of an Ewing sarcoma. And recently also I come across, I got the pictures which I have sent it to you. Yeah. See, this, you can probably, I mean, share it with others. One girl living nearby with polydactyly in one of her fingers, and her parents did not have that problem. So, I mean, only we can present some scientific credible data and then pressurize the government. Maybe, see, people will be convinced and scientific community will be convinced. So, my point is that though we have not done adequate studies, with little bit of studies, some of the scientists at the department, they have accepted. Fine. Yeah, really, this is scientific. Yeah, present scientific data. Yeah, right. Yeah, I understand. You can see the poly. I mean, you can say the say 6 fingers. One. And can you please show this also? That is even also. I have sent you one. One. Yeah. You can. I mean, if you enlarge, you can see he was having heaving sarcoma. Just Shastri, his name is Shastri, 18 years old. Collection is very important and fund crunch, yeah, as you said, it's a big problem. And it has not received the attention, it's the yeah, but the problem is that, see, we need to our data may be minimal, our study is very much limited, and
sir,
we can demand that a larger studies need to be conducted by quoting the polluter-based principle that he is polluting. And it's true. I am saying that if radiation is not harmful, why US and this Japan introduce compensating laws?
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Like
in the interest of time,
I mean, it can't turn out that radiation can induce damage. That is why, I mean, those two countries have introduced compensatory laws considering the welfare of the citizens. India also should come forward to register such laws.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Ashlata ma'am, can you just highlight some key points in Telugu so our Telugu participants can also hear, especially those in villages, they can understand the scientific, aspects about this contamination on the effects on health.
డాక్టర్ పుగలేంది గారు చెప్పిన విషయాలన్నీ నేను చెప్పలేను, టైం కూడా లేదు. ఒక 3-4 విషయాలు చెప్తాను. ఆయన తమిళనాడులోని కల్పక్కం న్యూక్లియర్ రియాక్టర్ చుట్టుపక్కల ఉన్న గ్రామాల్లో ఈ రేడియేషన్ వల్ల జరిగిన ఆరోగ్య సమస్యలు, ముఖ్యంగా క్యాన్సర్ గురించి కొంత పనిచేశారు, దాని గురించి కొంత మాట్లాడారు. అయితే ఆయన ఏమంటారంటే అది యురేనియం కానీ న్యూక్లియర్ ఇది కానీ రేడియేషన్ అనేది ఏది కూడా సురక్షితమైనది కాదు. ఇప్పుడు తుమ్మలపల్లిలో వాళ్ళు చెప్తుండొచ్చు, ఇది చాలా చిన్న ప్లాంట్, ఇది తక్కువ జరుగుతుంది, ఇక్కడ రేడియేషన్ తక్కువ ఉంది, లేదు దీనివల్ల చెప్పొచ్చు. కానీ ఆయన చెప్పిన ముఖ్యమైన పాయింట్ ఏంటంటే ఏ రేడియేషన్ అయినా ఏ స్థాయిలో జరిగినా అది సురక్షితమైనది కాదు, దానివల్ల తప్పకుండా ప్రమాదాలు ఉంటాయి, తర్వాత దానివల్ల ప్రతికూల ప్రభావాలు ఉంటాయని చెప్పారు. ఇంకొకటి, ఈ న్యూక్లియర్ రియాక్టర్ చుట్టుపక్కల ఉన్న గ్రామాల్లో బోన్ క్యాన్సర్లు ఎక్కువగా వచ్చాయని ఆయన పరిశోధనలో ఆయన చేసిన స్టడీస్ లో తెలిసింది. దీని డేటాను పట్టుకుని ఆయన ప్రభుత్వం మీద ఒత్తిడి తేవడానికి ట్రై చేశారు. అలాగే అడియార్ క్యాన్సర్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూట్ డేటా కూడా తీసుకున్నారు. ఆయన మనకు చెప్తున్నది ఏంటంటే మనం ఎక్కడైతే పనిచేస్తున్నామో ఆ ఉద్యమం బలంగా ఉండాలి అంటే అక్కడ మనం కొంత డేటా, మంచి సాలిడ్ డేటా కనుక మనం సేకరించగలిగితే, మీరు ఇందాక మోహన్ బాబు చెప్పారు అక్కడ క్యాన్సర్లు వస్తున్నాయి, అబార్షన్స్ జరుగుతున్నాయి, స్కిన్ డిజీజెస్ అని, వీటి గురించి మనం కనుక కొంత డేటా సేకరించి అంటే ఒక సిస్టమేటిక్ గా ఒక శాస్త్రీయంగా డేటా సేకరించి కనుక మనము ప్రభుత్వం మీద ఒత్తిడి తేవడానికి అవకాశం ఉంటుంది. అయితే ఆ డేటా సేకరించడానికి మన దగ్గర ఉండవు మనకి. సో అక్కడ పనిచేస్తున్న ఉద్యమకారులు గాని, రైతులు గాని, ప్రజలు గాని ఇవంతా దృష్టిలో పెట్టుకొని అక్కడ మీరు దానికి వ్యతిరేకంగా చేస్తున్న ఉద్యమం బలంగా ఉండాలి, ప్రభుత్వం మీద ఒత్తిడి తీసుకురావాలంటే మాత్రం ఈ డేటా, ఈ సమాచారం సేకరణ అంటే గణాంకాలు, ఎంతమందికి ఏ రకమైన ఆరోగ్య సమస్యలు వస్తున్నాయి, ఏ నష్టం జరుగుతుంది అనేది మనం అప్పుడు ప్రభుత్వం మీద ఒత్తిడి తీసుకురాగలుగుతాం. ముఖ్యంగా ఆయన చెప్పిన విషయాలు. థ్యాంక్ యూ.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And you can also gather photos as data. I will go when I go to the field, I'll tell them. If we can go to Ramanjeyenellu, sir, if you can ask him to kindly speak about the farming issues.
Ramanjeyenellu garu, meer maatladandi. అన్మ్యూట్ చేసుకోండి. మ్యూట్ లో ఉంది.
మాట్లాడు.
నా పేరు రామాంజనేయులు, వేమల మండలం ముగ్గుచింతలపల్లి. నేను రైతును. మాకు 10 ఎకరాల భూమి ఉంది. 2 బోర్లు వేసినాము, 2 కంటామినేషన్ అయినాయి. 5 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి పంటే రాలేదు. కనీసం అంటే 20-30 లక్షలు నష్టం వచ్చింది. ఏ పంట పెట్టినా కూడా పైరు ఎదగుదల లేదు, ఏం లేదు. మేమైతే నీళ్లు వాళ్ళు షాంపిల్ తీసుకుపోతారు, యురేనియం వాళ్ళేమో కనీసం అంటే 100 సార్లు తీసుకుపోయినారు. మాకు రిపోర్ట్ కావాలా మాకు అని అడిగితే రేపు ఇస్తాము మన్నాడు ఇస్తామని 100 సార్లు తీసుకుపోయినారు. వాటర్ ఏమో ఇప్పటికీ లేదు. లాస్ట్ లో మొన్న సంవత్సరం కిందట వాళ్ళని వాటర్ కూడా తీసుకోవడం లేదు. మాకు ఇచ్చింటే కదా రిపోర్ట్ మేము నీళ్ళు తీసుకోవడానికి అని చెప్పాను. నా అటువంటి రైతులు కొన్ని వందల మంది ఉన్నారు ఇక్కడ, ఎంతో నష్టపోయి లక్షల పెట్టుబడులు పెట్టి. కాకపోతే ఇప్పుడు నిలిచిపోయినాం, అట్లా ఏం లేదు. అట్లా వాటర్ ప్రాబ్లము, ఇక్కడ పంటలు రాక ఇచ్చుకోలేవాళ్ళు. కాకపోతే పోలీసు బోర్డు విజయవాడ కూడా ఒత్తులు పోయినాం, మేము 2 సార్లు పోయినాం మేడం. వాళ్ళు కూడా మీకు న్యాయం చేస్తామని వాళ్ళని మమ్మల్ని 2 సార్లు పిలిచినారు అక్కడికి. కాకపోతే వాళ్ళు న్యాయం చేస్తామన్నారు కాబట్టి వాళ్ళు కూడా ఏం చేయలేదు. 2 సార్లు పిల్లలు పంపినారు, మీకు న్యాయం చేస్తాము, అక్కడ అన్ని ఏర్పాట్లు చేపిస్తామని చెప్పినారు. ఇంతవరకు ఏమి లేదు. అట్లే జరుగుతాను మేడం. చాలా నష్టపోయినారు. ఇక్కడ ఉన్న రైతులు అయితే ప్రతి రైతుకు నష్టమే, ఇంకో మార్గమే లేదు వాళ్ళకు. వ్యవసాయం మానుకునే వాళ్ళు చాలా మంది ఉన్నారు. ఇంకా వేరే దారి లేక అట్లే చేసుకుంటా నష్టపోతా ఉండే వాళ్ళు చాలా మంది ఉన్నారు మేడం.
రామాంజనేయులు గారు, నేను అడుగుతాను, చెప్తారా? అప్పుడు 2018లో కొంతమంది అరటి తోటలు మానేశారు కదా, ఇప్పుడు వాళ్ళు మళ్ళీ అరటి తోటలు పెట్టుకున్నారా? అలాగే పరిస్థితి ఉందా?
లేదు సార్, 90% తీసేసినారు. ఒకరో ఇద్దరు భ్రమ పట్లాగా పెడుతున్నారు, అవి కూడా ఎదుగుదల లేదు. ఈ సంవత్సరం పెట్టినారు ఒకరో ఇద్దరు, కాకపోతే అవి కూడా ఎదుగుదల రాలేదు. ఇంకా 2-3 నెలల తర్వాత ఒకరో ఇద్దరు పెట్టినారు, అవి తెలుసు సార్. అవి కూడా
నాకు ఈ మధ్య అనుమానం వచ్చి నేను ఒక పత్రికా విలేకరికి ఫోన్ చేశాను. ఎందుకంటే మీ గ్రామాల్లో నాకు ఎవరు, మేడం చనిపోయిన తర్వాత నాకు ఎవరు చెప్పేవాళ్ళు లేకుండా అయిపోయారు. ఒక పత్రికా విలేకరిని అడిగితే ఆయన కనుక్కుని మీ గ్రామాల్లో నాకేం చెప్పాడంటే, మళ్ళీ అందరూ మామూలుగా వ్యవసాయం చేసుకుంటున్నారంట సార్ అని చెప్పాడు.
లేదు సార్, అట్లా కాదు. కొంత ఒకరో ఇద్దరు ట్రై చేస్తున్నారు.
కానీ మళ్ళీ మట్టి నమూనాలని పరిశీలించారా? కృషి విజ్ఞాన కేంద్రానికి తీసుకెళ్లి ఆ మట్టిలో సోడియం లవణాలు తగ్గినాయా?
అలాంటిది ఏం పరిశీలన జరగలేదు సార్. మనకి ముందు ఎవరైతే వాటర్ పొల్యూట్ అయిన రైతులు కాకుండా ఎవరు పొల్యూట్ కాని రైతులు ఎవరైతే ఉంటారో వాళ్ళు ఇంట్రెస్టెడ్ గా పంటలు పెడుతున్నారు. పొల్యూట్ అయిన రైతులు ఆ క్రాప్లు వదిలేసి చిన్న అంతర పంటలు ఏవైతే ఉంటాయో ఒక 3 months లోపు వచ్చే పంటలు, దానిలోకి ఇంట్రెస్ట్ చూపుతున్నాం. అది లేదంటే మన గ్రౌండ్ నట్ వేరుచెనక్కాయ అయింది కదా, అరకొర పంట పండుతుంది, అది మటుకే ఇంట్రెస్ట్ చూపిస్తున్నాం ఎక్కువ శాతం. అరటి జోలికి అయితే ఏ రైతులు పోలేదు. ఆ రోజు ఎవరైతే నష్టపోయినారో రికార్డెడ్ గా చూసుకున్నా ఈ రోజు వరకు ఆ రైతులు ఎవ్వరు కూడా బనానా క్రాప్ జోలికి వెళ్ళలేదు సార్. వేరే ఇంట్రెస్ట్ గా ఉన్న రైతులు చేస్తున్నారు, కానీ వాళ్ళ వాటర్ పూర్తి స్థాయిలో కంటామినేషన్ కాలేదు కాబట్టి వాళ్ళు ఇంట్రెస్టెడ్ గా పెట్టుకుంటున్నారు. ఓకే,
అది కూడాను మళ్ళీ 2 సార్లు వరదలు వచ్చినాయి. 2 సార్లు వరదలు వచ్చినప్పుడు భూగర్భ జలాల్లో లవణ శాతం తగ్గి ఉంటది, అందువల్ల ఆ ప్రమాదం ఇంకా పెరగలేదు. ఇప్పుడు వరదలు రాలేదంటే మళ్ళీ లవణ శాతం పెరుగుతుంది. వచ్చే ఏడాది కానీ మళ్ళీ మామూలే పరిస్థితి అయిపోతుంది.
అవును సార్. ఎందుకు సార్ ఈ రోజుటికి కూడా అది పూర్తి స్థాయిలో ప్యాచెస్, వైట్ ప్యాచెస్ వస్తున్నాయి సార్. అంటే లైవ్ లో కూడా నేను చూపిస్తా సార్, నా ల్యాండ్ లోనే చూపిస్తా, వేరే వాళ్ళ ల్యాండ్ కూడా ఉంది సార్. దీని గురించి చాలా సార్లు ఈ విషయాలు వాళ్ళని అడిగి చూసాం సార్. ఏం చెప్పినా ఏంటంటే మేము కమిటీలు వేసాము, కమిటీ జరుగుతా ఉంది, కలెక్టర్ లెవెల్లో వెళ్తున్నాము, దీనికి కమిటీలో మీ అన్ని నిర్ధారణ అయితే ఆ టైలింగ్ పాండ్ బౌండరీ వాళ్ళ చుట్టూ ల్యాండ్స్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో కంటామినేట్ అయిన ల్యాండ్స్ మొత్తం యాక్టిఫై చేసుకుంటాము, మేము పూర్తి స్థాయిలో రెడీగా ఉన్నాము, కానీ గవర్నమెంట్ నుంచి మాకు ఎటువంటి రిపోర్ట్ రాలేదు అని ఇట్లా ఒకరి మీద ఒకరు సాకులు చెప్పుకుంటా కాలయాపన చేస్తున్నారు సార్. ఇక్కడ ఏ రైతు ల్యాండ్ తీసుకోలేదు, ఎవరికి న్యాయం చేయలేదు, ఎటువంటి రూపాయి నష్టపరిహారం చెల్లించలేదు సార్. గవర్నమెంట్, రాష్ట్ర గవర్నమెంట్ నుంచి అరకొర ఒక రైతుకు వచ్చేసి 20 సెంట్లు 15 సెంట్లు క్రాప్ డ్యామేజ్ అయినట్టు 20,000 15,000 రూపాయలు ఇట్లా ఇచ్చారు సార్ వన్ టైము. ఇంకా అప్పటి నుంచి దాని గురించి పట్టించుకునే వాళ్ళే లేదు సార్. ఆ రోజు కూడా టైలింగ్ పాండ్ పూర్తి స్థాయిలో నిండి ఏదైతే ఓవర్ఫ్లో అయ్యేసి ఆ వాటర్ అంతా బయటకు వచ్చిందో పొలాలలోకి, ఆ రైతులకు మటుకే డబ్బులు అరకొర ఇచ్చేదానికి గవర్నమెంట్ నుంచి సాయం చేసినారు సార్. యూసీఎల్ వాళ్ళు ఎటువంటి సాయం చేయలేదు. అవి రికార్డెడ్ గా ఫొటోస్ ఇవన్నీ ఉన్నాయి సార్, అందరి దగ్గర ఉన్నాయి, కానీ దాని గురించి పట్టించుకునే వాళ్ళు అయితే ఎవ్వరు లేరు సార్.
సరే, ఇంకొకటి చెప్పండి. ఇప్పుడు కొట్టాల దీనిలో టైలింగ్ పాండ్ లో లైనింగ్ వేస్తున్నామన్నారు, వేయించారా ఇప్పుడు?
ఇప్పుడు లైనింగ్ అయితే వేయించారు సార్. ఆ లైనింగ్ కింద ఏదైతే మెత్తటి మన్ను తోలి టార్ప్లిన్ 250 అదేదో మైక్రాన్ ఉంది కదా సార్, ఆ లైనింగ్ వేయాల్సిన పేపర్ అయితే వేస్తున్నారు సార్. అది ఎంత మటుకు క్వాలిటీ ఉంది అనేది మనకైతే తెలియదు సార్.
వేయటం అయిపోయిందా?
వేయటం అయితే అయిపోయింది
అంతకుముందు 250 మైక్రాన్ అన్నారు, ఇప్పుడు 2.5 మిల్లీమీటర్లు అన్నారు.
అవును సార్,
2.5 మిల్లీమీటర్ 250 అయితే ఊరికి చిరిగిపోతుంది. అది వేసి దండగా.
అవును సార్.
కాలుష్య నియంత్రణ మండలికి అసలు ఏమి తెలియక చెత్తగా రాశారు. అది తప్పది.
దానికే చెప్తున్నా సార్, చిన్న చిన్న రాయి ముక్కలు కింద సైడ్ కుచ్చుకుంటే కూడా బొక్క పడుతున్నాయి సార్. అది కూడా ఏంటంటే ఇంకోటి ఏంటంటే అది ఒకటే లెంత్ ఉండదు కాబట్టి పీసులన్నీ మిషన్ తో జాయింట్ కొడుతున్నారు సార్. జాయింట్ ఏమైతున్నాయంటే సరిగా జాయింట్ స్టిచ్చింగ్ పడక అక్కడక్కడ సందులు వస్తున్నాయి. కానీ అక్కడ చూసే వాళ్ళు ఎవరు లేరు సార్. సరిగా
పర్యవేక్షణ లేదు, థర్డ్ పార్టీ ఇన్స్పెక్షన్ ఉండాలి, అది చేయట్లేదు.
అవును సార్, లేదు సార్. ఆ విధంగా జరుగుతాం సార్. ఇక్కడైతే ఎవరు పట్టించుకునే వాళ్ళు అయితే లేరు సార్. టైలింగ్ బాండ్ ఎక్స్టెన్షన్ చేసేటప్పుడు లోకల్ పీపుల్స్ తో అనుమతులు తీసుకోవాలి కదా సార్. ఎటువంటి అనుమతులు తీసుకోలే. ఎక్స్టెన్షన్ చేసేటప్పుడు దాని చుట్టూ కొంతమేర ల్యాండ్స్ యాక్టిఫై చేసుకోవాలి కదా సార్. ఎటువంటిది ఏమి ఇక్కడ చేయడం లేదు సార్. ఎంతసేపు వాళ్ళ ఆదాయాన్ని చూస్తున్నారు తప్ప ఇక్కడ ప్రజలకు ఎంతో కొంత సాయం చేయాలనే ఆలోచనలో లేరు సార్. ఇంకోటి మేము ఇప్పుడు జీవోలు ఎత్తేసినాము, ల్యాండ్స్ పోతే కూడా జాబులు ఇచ్చే ఆలోచనలో కంపెనీ లేదు, రకరకాల పద్ధతులలో చెప్తున్నారు సార్. ఒక రైతు పోతే కూడా ఎవరు పిలిచే వాళ్ళు లేరు. దాని గురించి మాట్లాడదామంటే కూడా కంపెనీ దగ్గరకు రానియడం లేదు సార్. మీకు తెలుసు ఇక్కడ ఏమనంటే కేసులు అంటారు, ఏమనంటే ఫోన్లు వెళ్తాయి, పైనుంచి ఫోన్లు వస్తాయి. ఏ రైతు గొంతు తెరిచి మాట్లాడే అవకాశం ఇవ్వడం లేదు సార్. మేము కూడా ఏంటంటే మాకు కూడా చాలా వరకు నష్టపోయి మా బాధ ఎవరికి చెప్పుకున్న తీరని పక్షంలో మేము ఇట్లా ధైర్యం చేసి మాట్లాడేదానికి ముందుకు వస్తున్నాం సార్. మీకు తెలుసు ఇక్కడ రైతులు ఎవరు మాట్లాడేదానికి మాట్లాడలేరు, ఎందుకంటే వాళ్ళ గొంతు నొక్కేస్తున్నారు సార్ ఇక్కడ. ఇది మీకు ఖచ్చితంగా దీనికి పూర్తి స్థాయిలో మీకే తెలుసు. ఫస్ట్ నుంచి కూడా ఈ సమస్యల మీద మీరున్నారు, అది మీకే తెలుసు సార్. మాకంటే బాగా మీకే తెలుసు దీని గురించి.
నాకు ఇంకొకటి చెప్పండి, ఈ లోపలేసిన లైనింగ్ ఫోటోలు ఏమైనా దొరుకుతాయా? కొత్తగా వేసిన లైనింగ్ ఎవరన్నా ఫోటోలు తీసారా? నేను శ్రీనాథ్ రెడ్డి గారిని అడిగితే నేను తెప్పించిస్తా అన్నాడు, నాకేం పంపించలేదు ఆయన.
అవునవునులే సార్.
అట్లా కదా సార్, నా బోర్వెల్లు 2 ఉన్నాయి కదా, 2 కలుషితమైనాయి, పైరు పెట్టాను. నేను ఒకటి ఛాలెంజ్ చేసిన సార్ నేను వాళ్ళకు. ఎవరో అంటే మీ దాంట్లో కూడా ఇప్పుడు రాలేదు కదా అంటే, 1 ఎకరా అరటి పంట పండించే నేను నా ఆస్తి అంతా ఇడిచిపెట్టి నేను వెళ్ళిపోతాను, మీరు ఎవరన్నా కానీ నా దాంట్లో ఇప్పుడు కలుషితం లేదు అంటే రాండి అని చెప్తే ఎవరు ముందుకు రాలేదు సార్. మళ్ళీ అట్లా సార్ వాళ్ళకు
ఈ అధికారులకి ఏం పట్టిందండి, వాళ్ళకి ఏం పట్టిందండి?
అట్లా వాళ్ళు కాదు సార్, ఇక్కడ కూడా ఎవరన్నా మాకు అట్లా అంటారు అన్నమాట.
ఇంకోటి ఏంటంటే సార్,
కూడా అట్లా చెప్తారు సార్ వాళ్ళు.
ఇంకో పాయింట్ ఏంటంటే సార్, కంపెనీ ఏం చేసిందంటే ఇక్కడ రైతులు మాకు క్రాప్ దిగుబడి రావడం లేదంటే వీళ్ళు కంపెనీ ఏం చేసిందంటే ఒక ట్రైల్ వేసింది సార్. ఒక 1000 మొక్కో 1500 మొక్కో మా ప్లాంట్ లోనే మేము మొక్కలు నాటి పంట పండించి చూపిస్తాము, ఎందుకు పంట రావడం లేదో అనే భావనతో ఒక ట్రైల్ వేసింది సార్. కానీ అది బయటికి ఎక్కడా తెలియజేయలేదు సార్ ఎవరికి కూడా. ఆ వేసిన క్రాప్ కు సంబంధించి దాదాపు ఒక 5 నుంచి 10 lakhs పే చేశారు సార్. ఎటువంటి ఒక్క టన్ను కాదు, 1/2 టన్ను కూడా క్రాప్ తీయలేకపోయినారు సార్ వాళ్ళు. దాన్ని బయటకు వస్తే ఇష్యూ అవుతుంది అనేసి దాన్ని సైలెంట్ కప్పెట్టేశారు సార్. అది 100% వాస్తవం సార్. ఇది రికార్డులు బయటకు తీస్తే కూడా వాళ్ళు దాని మీద ఎంత అమౌంట్ పే చేశారో కూడా రికార్డులు యూసీఎల్ నుంచి బయటకు తీస్తే అకౌంటెంట్ నుంచి మొత్తం బయటకు వస్తాయి సార్ వీళ్ళ చరిత్రలన్నీ. కానీ ఆ ఒక పంట ఒక క్రాప్ కూడా ఒక గెల కూడా సరిగా రాని పక్షంలో దాన్ని కప్పెట్టేసినారు సార్. అదే పంట క్రాప్ బాగా వస్తే వీళ్ళు కాటా వేసి రైతులకు ఫోటోలు చూపించి ఇంత చూపించే వాళ్ళు సార్. ఎటువంటిది బయటికి రాకుండా చేసినారు సార్. దానికి రోజు ఒక షిఫ్ట్ కు 2 మనుషులను పెట్టి పంట పండియాలని చూసినారు సార్ వాళ్ళు. ఎంత చూసినా గానీ దిగుబడి రాలేదు సార్. రాకపోయేసరికి దాని ప్లాంట్ లోనే కప్పెట్టేసిన సార్, బయటికి ఇష్యూ పాకపోకుండా. ఎందుకంటే లోపలికి సెల్లులు అలవ్ లేదు, ఎవరు ఫోటోలు తీయలేరు, దాన్ని బయటికి తీసుకురానిరు, ఇట్లా వీళ్ళు కప్పెట్టుకున్నారు సార్. ఇది ఈ విధంగా చేసినారు. వాస్తవంగా వాళ్ళు పంట పండించింటే ఈ రోజు రాష్ట్రాన్ని మొత్తానికి తెలిసేటట్టు చూపించింది సార్. వాళ్ళు ఎటువంటి పంట తీయలేకపోయినారు సార్ వాళ్ళు. దానికోసము మనం రైతులే ఖర్చు పెట్టి పంట పండిస్తే ఒక కంపెనీ ఎంత పెట్టుబడి పెడతారు సార్? అంత పెట్టుబడి పెట్టిన కంపెనీనే పంట తీయలేకపోతే రైతు ఏ విధంగా పంట తీస్తాడు సార్?
మీకు ఇక్కడ మీరు 2018లో కంపెనీ లోపల జరిగిన సమావేశానికి వచ్చారా? అప్పుడు నేను
వచ్చినా సార్.
వచ్చారు కదా, అప్పుడు వాళ్ళు కొంతమంది వ్యవసాయ శాస్త్రవేత్తలు తీసుకొచ్చారు అప్పుడు లోపలికి. తీసుకొచ్చి వాళ్ళు ఏం చెప్పారు, మేము ఇక్కడ మట్టిని ఎలా శుద్ధి చేయాలో ఉన్నదాంతో ఎలా మార్పులు చేసి వ్యవసాయం చేసుకుని బాగా ఫలసాయం పొందొచ్చో మేము చూపిస్తామని చెప్పారు కదా అప్పుడు. మరి వాళ్ళే ఎందుకు, అంత మోసమే కదా అది. అప్పుడు అట్లా చెప్పిన వాళ్ళే ఎందుకు చేయలేకపోయారు వాళ్ళ ప్లాంట్ లోపల?
అదే సార్ ఇక్కడ అంతా మోసమే సార్. కానీ ఏంటంటే దీని మీద మాట్లాడే గొంతు లేదు సార్. ఇక్కడ మెయిన్ పాయింట్ మాట్లాడే గొంతు లేదు.
అదే
నొక్కేస్తా ఉంటారు సార్ ఇక్కడ.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because in interest of time, thank you for making it more conversational. It's important to ask them questions and they can answer to some of the questions that we have. Thank you, Babu sir. If Ashlata ma'am can kindly translate what has been spoken, and then we can take questions.
Ramanjeyenellu is a farmer. He said he owns 10 acres of land and he has 2 borewells and he has been cultivating banana plantation in his farm. And see, he says that since past 5 years, the crop has lost. There is no growth in the crop, the plants. And almost he has lost up to 25 to 30 lakhs of rupees in the last 5 years. And he says that water samples were collected from his land by the company, but they never gave back the report saying what is the like level of salt contamination or something. He says, I am not the only one, but there are hundreds of farmers in my village, in Palle, and there is no one to come, or the farmers are not all coming together and speaking in one voice. He says that we also went to Vijayawada to the pollution control department and they promised that we will do justice to you, but nothing is being done. And he says that many farmers have stopped cultivation. And some people who don't know what else to do, they are only few people are continuing with banana plantation. And so in the meanwhile, Babu sir was asking that some people told me that the banana cultivation is happening very good. So is it happening? So for that, Mohan, Babu and Ramanjeyenellu both were telling that the crops are not good. Maybe few farmers are cultivating some intercrops, like short-term 2-3 months crops, but not the banana plantation. And Babu sir was adding that there were the area was flooded twice. Because of the floods, the concentration of the salts has decreased. Maybe that is the reason that crops have little better for some time. But if there are no floods and again the concentration increases, then again the crops will be, the situation will go back. So what Mohan Babu was adding was that UCL company said that they will acquire the lands which got affected, which got contaminated around the tailing pond and plant, but they didn't do anything, saying that we didn't get any permission or not from the government. The original promise was that UCL will acquire the lands and give compensation to the farmers, but nothing of that has happened. Only once when the crops got like severe loss happened for few farmers, those farmers were given some crop loss compensation. That's the only once the company has come forward, but that was also not in a full compensation. And Babu sir was asking about the lining. Recently, a lining was laid to the tailing ground, and it was 2.5 mm thickness. But what Mohan Babu was adding was that when there are stones below the lining was getting torn, and even when at the point of joints also it was getting torn. So there is no supervision or so monitoring whether the lining is good or not and all. And Ramanjeyenellu was adding in between that he challenged the other farmers or scientists, saying that if any one of you can grow banana plantation in 1 acre of my land also, I'll leave my farming and go away. So in all this, Mohan Babu was also added that the company tried to demonstrate that we can grow banana plantation in this area. They spent a lot of money and they appointed 2 people. And in maybe in 1 or 2 acres, they tried to grow, but the crop has failed severely. So they have hushed it up and they have not propagated. If they had succeeded, they could have shown that to the whole world that there is no contamination, but nothing such things has happened. But ultimately, both of them are trying to say that there is no, united voice against this uranium plant in Tumbalpalli. That is the reason that the company is having its say. Yeah, I'll end it here. We can go for questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. We can quickly take some questions. One of the questions that came is about the population. Do people have population? And I think Srinath Reddy sir would have been the best person to answer this. It's there in my records though. How many villages are affected and the number of population affected? Has there been any deaths, and since when? Sid asked this question, but they're not. I think he left. Does anyone know? Or Babu sir, can you translate it into Telugu, and maybe Mohan Babu sir knows, means he can add.
Mohan Babu garu, మీ గ్రామాల్లో ఎన్ని గ్రామాల్లో ఎంత పాపులేషన్ దీంతో బాధితులు ఉన్నారు? ఈ బాధితుల్లో ఎంతమందికి అనారోగ్యం ఉన్నదనే సమాచారం ఎవరైనా సేకరించారా? ఎక్కడైనా ఉన్నదా?
ఇప్పటి వరకు అయితే సేకరించలేదు సార్ ఎవరు. ఇంతకు ముందు ఒకసారి అమెరికన్ ఒక మేడం వచ్చింది సార్. ఆ మేడం దగ్గర రిపోర్ట్ అయితే ఉంది సార్. ఇక్కడ ఎవరెవరికి ఇష్యూస్ జరిగాయి, ఇక్కడ పరిస్థితులు ఏ విధంగా ఉన్నాయని ఆ రోజు గ్రౌండ్ లెవెల్లో మేడం ను ఊర్లోకి పిలిపించి మొత్తం మేడం దగ్గర రిపోర్ట్ అయితే అప్పుడు చెప్పాం సార్. రికార్డెడ్ గా మేడం దగ్గర ఉంది. ఎంతమందికి అనారోగ్య సమస్యలు ఉన్నాయి, ఇక్కడ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఏంటి విలేజ్ లో అని చెప్పేసి మొత్తం మెన్షన్ చేసుకుంది సార్ మేడము డైరీలో. తర్వాత అయితే ఇంకా దాని టాపిక్ అయితే స్టాప్ చేశారు సార్. ఇంకా తర్వాత ఎవరు రాలేదు, దీని మీద ఎటువంటి అధ్యయనం చేయలేదు సార్. ఇక్కడ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఉన్న వాళ్ళు ఏంటంటే హాస్పిటల్కి వెళ్ళి వాళ్ళ కొద్ది వాళ్ళు చూపించుకుంటూ వెళ్తున్నారు సార్. ఎందుకంటే ఇది ఆల్రెడీ అంతా జరిగిపోయిన స్టోరీ కదా సార్. ఇంకా ఇన్ని చెప్పినా దీన్ని ఎవరు అర్థం చేసుకునే పరిస్థితుల్లో లేరు కాబట్టి ఎవరికైతే ఆరోగ్యం వెళ్ళిపోతున్నారు సార్. దీన్ని బయటకంటూ ఎవరు
తీసుకురావడం. One American professor came there, Ann Llewellyn. She was interviewing all these people and she collected some data. But I don't think it could have been comprehensive just because she visited there for 2 days. It's not possible. It should be done locally only under guidance of somebody. I don't think there is no comprehensive data. Because population is easy to get. It is available in the public domain. We can get the actual population data of all those villages. Yeah. But about the health survey, there is no such health. Of course, that this Padmavati Medical University, Tirupati Medical University, they have done some SV University Medical College or somebody. They have done some study because Pollution Control Board has given a project to them. They have conducted some survey. I think that report was collected by Srimati Jayasri. A hard copy must be there. She may have given me also. I can look for it. It may be there, but there was nothing great in it. That study was not really comprehensive and nothing great. Because all these government medical colleges, they're afraid of bringing out any truths. Because the government will suppress that. Yeah. So, but they have done some study, but some amount of data is there. It can be obtained. Yes.
Yeah, it can be definitely obtained. The population, it's also there in my dissertation. I just have to go back and pick the number. I don't want to say by mistake. Anjanaya Reddy has a question. Anjanaya Reddy, can you please unmute yourself and ask?
Anjanaya Reddy garu.
నమస్తే సార్, నేను మీతోనే మాట్లాడాలి అనుకుంటున్నాను సార్. ఎగ్జాక్ట్లీగా నేను అక్కడ ఇప్పుడు ఇక్కడ డిస్కషన్ లో నడుస్తా ఉండే ఇట్లా ఇష్యూ గురించి నాకేమి నాలెడ్జ్ లేదు. బట్ యురేనియం ఇష్యూ కాబట్టి నేను పార్టిసిపేట్ చేసినాను. సేమ్ ఇష్యూ సార్. సార్ మాది ఇక్కడ బెంగళూరు పక్కన కోలార్ జిల్లా సార్. రీసెంట్ గా ఒక ఐఏఎస్సి బెంగళూరు ఒక రిపోర్ట్ రిలీజ్ చేసింది. కోలార్ అండ్ చిక్బల్లాపూర్ లో గ్రౌండ్ వాటర్ లెవెల్ టేబుల్ 1200 కి పడిపోయింది. అక్కడ డ్రింకింగ్ వాటర్ లో యురేనియం కంటామినేషన్ వస్తా ఉంది అని చెప్పి దాని గురించి జల్ శక్తి మినిస్టర్ గజేంద్ర సింగ్ షేకావత్ గారు కూడా ఒక నేషనల్ వాటర్ కన్వెన్షన్ లో మాట్లాడినారు. ఇక్కడికి ఏదైనా పర్యాయం చేయాలని చెప్పినారు. సో ఈ ఇష్యూస్ మళ్ళీ బెంగళూరు నుంచి సివేజ్ వాటర్ చెరువులకి అంటే డ్రింకింగ్ వాటర్ బోర్వెల్స్ ఉండేట్లా చెరువులకి ఆ సివేజ్ అండ్ ఎఫ్లూయెంట్ వాటర్ ని సెకండరీ ట్రీట్మెంట్ అంటే పార్షియల్లీ ట్రీట్ చేసి వదులుతున్నారు. ఈ గురించి కొంచెం మీతో ఎప్పుడైనా మీరు వీలుండి మీరు పర్మిషన్ ఇస్తే ఎప్పుడైనా వీలుండే టైంలో కొంచెం మాట్లాడాలని ఉన్నాను సార్. నేను దాంట్లో ఆల్రెడీ పిటిషనర్ సార్. నేను హైకోర్టు మళ్ళీ సుప్రీం కోర్టులో ప్రశాంత్ భూషణ్ గారిని పట్టుకొని ఒక పిఐఎల్ కూడా వేసినాను. సో ఆ గురించి మీ హెల్ప్ కొంచెము మీ గైడెన్స్ తీసుకుందాం అనుకుంటున్నాను.
అలాగే అలాగే వీలైతే చేద్దాం
సార్. ఇఫ్ యూ డోంట్ మైండ్ మీదేమన్నా నంబర్ ఇస్తే ఐఎమ్ గ్రేట్ఫుల్ టు యూ.
Anjanaya Reddy sir, I have your number. I will share Babu Rao sir's number with you. Is that okay?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Talk to Babu Rao sir and I'll share it with you. Okay. That is the questions we can take. Please share questions to us. There are email IDs. My email ID, I'm just putting it on the chat. And I would love to hear from everyone who's watching and things that we can do to organize around this. We are not able to take any more questions because of time constraint, but yeah, like I want to leave with some video. Yeah. Okay, and I want to thank all the people who participated, Mohan Babu sir, Ramanjeyenellu sir, and have waited. I know they have dinner very early, and I'm thankful for them. Pugazhyenthi sir, thanks for joining beyond your limit, like you wanted to leave by 7:30. And Babu Rao sir, thank you so much for giving the scientific backing to whatever has been discussed here, and for Ramanjeyenellu sir and Mohan Babu sir for giving the voice that actually gives human touch.
Ground reality
actually gives a human touch to the scientific data. Without that, it's really, really hard. I will leave with some videos so that it's there in the record of the meeting. So with some videos of how the contamination is happening, and it's quickly 3-minute video or so. We'll just sorry, it's the wrong. I have to share my presentation. Where is my okay. And then so it's there in the record. After that, we'll close this session. And thank you so much NAPM for hosting this wonderful session. And was needed to have like a larger audience. Hopefully everyone will access these records and get to know more about what's happening. Thank you everyone for making this happen. Let me just that is the tailing pond, and from tailing pond, this water is overflowing. The border got broken, and radioactive water is overflowing. This is after the 2019 floods. This is the same video, and this is also the water. If you look around the tailing pond, there is always plants. This should not be the case. Banana plantations, as they said, they are all submerged in radioactive water. I think this is Mohan farm. And this is basically the tailing pond should be dry so that it doesn't become dust and settle in the villages. Oftentimes the tailing pond should be wet so it doesn't become dry and settle in the villages, but oftentimes it's so dry and it is not watered adequately that the dust from these tailing pond go and settle in farmland. So if in the summers, if you see that banana leaf and everything, there'll be like a sheet of pink layer, pink dust that is coming to. So these are basically how safety is not kept. Even when they have failed, they use safety as an excuse that nuclear safety is being followed. So we are not doing anything wrong. But if you see, they're not meeting the pollution control standard regulation. That is what is the biggest problem there. And health governance is very poor in Tummanapalli right now. That has to be strengthened. This is the conclusion of today's session. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining and waiting patiently.
Okay, thank you.